On this episode of Southern Fried Geekery.
Gregbo Watson, international hooligan.
And I'm the person who keeps up with Gregbo.
Yeah, she's the hooligan wrangler.
1, 2, 3.
Show you what I was reading at the moment?
Why no?
I just picked it up last week. It just came out. It's really fucking excited about it.
I love this cover. So the book
It's
is
beautiful.
Children of Blood and Bone, Tommy Adeyemi.
And it's her first book. She's from Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
So the book is kind of like fantasy, but based in Africa. It's really cool. It kind of has almost like an Avatar feel. Like 11 years prior to the story, there were all these different tribes, and each tribe called to a different god or goddess, and they got magical abilities from it, and they were all elemental based, except they added like life and death and stuff like that into it. Well, at a certain point, somebody severed their connection to the gods, and all the people who are called Magi, they're distinguished by their white hair, are basically just shit on, like in their society now. Like, people look down on them, they're called maggots, and they're basically taxed out of their mind until they get forced into slavery, essentially.
Okay.
And it's all about this girl and a couple of others trying to, like, getting hope that they can bring the gods back and bring magic back to their world.
Looking at the back of the book and the little blurb on here, they killed my mother, they took our magic, they tried to bury us, now we rise.
Mm-hmm.
That's badass. And they actually got a blurb from best-selling author Marie Lu, who I'm a big fan of.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, you get Marie Lu to plug your book and you've done something.
It's pretty damn good.
Now this is for the book club you're a part of?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like an already salvatore book to me.
You don't know that? Let me take off this slipcover real quick. Oh, yeah, it's
See,
not.
it's prettier without the slipcover.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like slipcovers.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I get kind of shit on for that.
Let's
when I,
get book snobs or book snobs.
well, I like,
And then the inside of it's got all the maps.
that's gorgeous.
all my
and,
book covers always get torn up.
Well, that's even with the hardcover graphic novels that I buy. Like, I actually take the slip covers off because I think they look better on the shelf with just the book. I think they look more classy, and maybe that makes me a little bit of an elitist. But I love the leather-bound books on the wall look, and a lot of times I've got the gold foil down the edge. I think that just looks really good. So what I figured out, a neat little trick if you want to do this, but if you don't want to throw away your slip covers, like if you want to keep it in case for anything, go find what they call like coffee table books. They're like the bigger picture books that you can keep on your coffee table for guests when they want to flip through something. If you find one's about the right size, you can layer them up. You can put like 4 or 5 on one book, close it, stick it in the bookshelf. Just to save it. It doesn't get wrinkled up or bent, but you keep it and it works out really well. So that's what I've been doing. And then I've got my nerd cavern upstairs that I keep all my books in, where the nice pretty leather bound hardcovers sit there. And I know what they are, and it makes me happy. I find much joy in it. So we want to do a podcast?
Nah.
Nope.
We're just going to sit over here and eat pizza, and I'm going to drink wine.
Oh, fuck yeah. It's the ideal night.
Delicious wine. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. This is actually kind of a landmark episode. You know why?
Episode 10.
Our baby hits the double digits. We're episode 10 now. And to celebrate, Craig said to go fuck ourselves, and he's not here.
But I have returned stronger than before.
We apparently are trading out.
My attempts to kill you and take your spot in the podcast have failed.
You have failed, sir.
But yeah, we got our Sean back, which makes me really, really happy.
Yay, me!
So, yeah, the way we worked out this week, I've actually been gone all week. Craig had to leave on Sunday, so we kind of missed each other. And he wasn't able to be on at the same time as me. I offered to be the one to bow out, but he said no. He had to catch a flight on Sunday anyway. So we're recording this not on our regular time, and you guys were gracious enough to drive all the way across town.
If you're worried that either Caleb or I won't be here for the next episode, worry not, because I'm not going anywhere. Sean, look at me, Sean. Look me in the face.
Damn
I'm not
it.
going anywhere.
I might be dead by the next episode. My liver might give out. Who knows? So if you listened to our last episode, and we really think you should, it was pretty great. We had a great time. We had a really good interview with Miss Nancy A. Collins, who is a comics writer from way back and also today. She is, as of right now, the first and the only woman to ever write Swamp Thing. She helped kick off Vertigo. She talks about her, relationship with guys like Neil Gaiman to do all that. Go listen to that thing. While you're listening to it, get on your phones. leave us a couple stars and a review on iTunes. It helps us get out to the world. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We have all of those things now. Twitter and Instagram, we're at SFG Podcast. Facebook, we're Southern Fried Geekery. And if you have questions, comments, or concerns, or you just want to tell Jerry how he ain't living right, send us an email at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com.
Give me advice in my love life.
Oh.
Don't do that.
Don't give you advice on your love life. People need to be more selective about the advice they give and the advice they receive.
Well, my brother actually commented on it, and he was like, I mean, advice works in every manner of way. You could either take it or leave it, but people will still give it no matter what.
That's true.
Yeah.
You don't have to take it. Unless it's about comics and it's from us, and then you should always take it.
Always take that advice.
Because we are aficionados. It says so right on the page that we created for ourselves.
We wrote it in there ourselves.
We edit our own wiki page.
So it has to be right.
So before we really get this thing going, I just want to say, number one, we do miss you, Craig. We hope you listen to this later on.
Yeah, buddy.
Wish you could be here with us. Completely understand. And we'll be back next week. Anybody got any shout-outs before we just really jump into the meat and potatoes of this thing?
My shout out actually is going to the McElroy boys from the Adventure Zone and my brother and me. It's actually the first podcast I ever really got into and got me really interested. And now I'm listening to like 6 or 7 other actual play podcasts. They do a advice show and they do a D&D one, and now they're actually kind of testing a bunch. So they do 5 or 6 games on a different system, and it's been really good. And if you're not checking them out already, you should go check them out.
Absolutely. Seconded, I followed the Adventure Zone through their first big campaign and had a really good time.
Mm-hmm.
Then school kicked back in and stuff. I haven't been able to listen to any of the new stuff, but yeah, man, it's a fun podcast. And my brother and me has a really good life advice, basically.
It's awful life advice.
But amazing nonetheless.
Destroy a horse, Sean.
You have to destroy a horse. You don't put it down, you don't kill it, you destroy a horse. Every time. My shout out is actually to a YouTube channel I'm a huge fan of, and I just want to spread the word on them if I can. They're called The Game Chasers. It's a couple of guys out of Texas, Billy and Jay. They basically saw American Pickers and decided, hey, why don't we make that kind of a show, but it's us hunting down retro video games. They're basically rebuying up their childhood Nintendo, Super Nintendo. They've even expanded into toys and just collectibles and everything like that. They're just nerds who decided, hey, let's make a American Pickers type show about our childhood instead of going out for the rusty stuff that they do on that show.
Right on.
They're funny, they're knowledgeable somewhat about what they're doing, but they're also self-aware that they're just a couple of bums from Texas who want to go out and find old video games. And they recorded it, and they're entertaining as hell. Even if you're not totally into the retro scene, honestly, this could very well get you there because it's just fun, and it's just you'll start seeing games you used to play when you were a little kid, and it's highly enjoyable. I'll go check out. They're called the Game Chasers on YouTube.
It's kind of that's kind of our version of the American dream, is to one day be able to say fuck a 9 to 5 and just hit the road and go out and flea market things. And
they do, and they find amazing stuff out there.
Check out old barns and find that copy of Action Comics #1 that I hide from you. And never talk to you again.
Find it, right?
Hey, I mean, it can be done. Like spoilers, especially if you actually know what this game is. Nintendo Action Comics would be arguably one of them would be called Little Samson, one of the last NES games ever produced, and it's actually a damn good game. Average on eBay now, especially with all the retro game hype that's come back, probably a $500-$600 game. They found it for $15 at a flea market.
Damn.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Check them out, Game Chasers.
Well, cool, man. Well, my shout out actually goes to somebody that I just met a couple days ago. I've been gone all week to Tampa, Florida, so got out of Arkansas for a little bit. Went to the AWP conference, which is the Association of Writing and Writing Programs down in Tampa, Florida, which was phenomenal. But I ran into a man named Tom Hart. Tom Hart has basically written a textbook called How to Say Everything: Ideas, Practices, and Challenges for Today's Visual Storytellers. If you're interested in learning how to make comics, how to write comics, the art of visual storytelling, he wrote a textbook that is extremely handy. I haven't gotten through the whole thing yet, but I started flipping through it on the ride home, and it's fascinating, and it's extremely informative. He also runs a thing called the Sequential Artist Workshop, which it's an online course in storytelling, drawing, perspective comics, journalism, gag cartooning, tarot card making, and more. Learn.sawcomics.org. It's a program. It's like an online course that you can take, and it teaches you cartooning. It teaches you narrative storytelling. So, as somebody who is interested in writing, more so for me, I write short fiction. But as somebody who wants to get into the comics game as well, this is pretty informative on how to create a page and how to write towards your artist, if that's something that you're willing to do. So, again, yeah, check it out. It's learn.saulcomics.org. It's extremely cool, and if you decide to take that workshop, it will not be a waste of your time or money. And his name, again, is Mr. Tom Hart. I was gone all week, like I said. So I've been pretty unplugged for the most part. I have really no idea what's happened for the past 7 days in the Nerdverse.
Shame on you.
Yeah, man. So I wrote down a few things I saw. Other than that, if we miss things, and there's things that people who are listening to this podcast are upset at us about missing, drop it on our Facebook page. Let us know what news you're finding important.
Call us out for being bad fans.
Yeah, man. I was stuck in the martinis and palm trees. It was just terrible.
Just margaritas all weekend, dude.
It sucked so bad. But Sean, you actually do have some news.
Yeah, actually, I got big news for me from one of my favorite creators.
Okay.
Aaron Magruder. Most of y'all, if you don't know that name, I guarantee you at least know his product called the Boondocks, either from the cartoon or used to be a comic strip in the newspapers. Haven't heard from him in a long time, and recently saw on his Facebook page that he posted a pretty lengthy article, and it kind of goes into what's been going on in the world of Boondocks. Give a breakdown. It's been a few years since the Boondocks went dark, and in that time the world has gotten, interesting. There's a lot of catching up to do. I won't try to tackle it all at once. I know there's a lot of fans who missed the show, and even more OG fans, right here, probably hated the show and missed the comic strip. The sustained relevance of the characters to the generation who grew up with them has been heartening to see. A return to the Boondocks has always been a complicated prospect for a bunch of reasons, ranging from the legal to the personal, the biggest challenge is always a point of view worth sharing. Inappropriate Negro humor is serious stuff. I'm proud of the series and what it accomplished, but I don't own it and I can't revisit it. That was something I kind of heard about, and he kind of confirmed especially with the cartoon. He lost a lot of creative control. So that kind of cleared it up for me. And then he also goes on to returning to a newspaper style comic also seems like looking backwards. Next year, the Boondocks turns 20 years old. Any new incarnation will find relevance for an entirely new generation. And he goes on to explain what he still has stuff to talk about. But after the election, new jokes and easy satire seem self-evident. I'm often asked if I now finally missed the world of political humor. I don't. It's hard to miss the Boondocks when life has become the Boondocks. Uncle Ruckus is president. We're all living a bizarre political satire that is largely about race and inappropriate for children. It's tragically funny, especially if you have a profoundly dark sense of humor like myself, and it raises a new question. Now, when we're all trapped in a cartoon, what do we do about it? And he goes on that he's explained that he wants to reach a new audience with his humor, with his, talking about race and politics and life. And he's decided to actually make a video game.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be a mobile app game. So it's like, basically he's going to a new platform to reach as much people as he can. I'm excited. I don't know what kind of game it's going to be, but I'm getting it.
Right.
That's because I support anything this man does. He's entertained me for years from the comic strip, and I like the cartoon well enough, but, it's...
I don't know that I actually knew it was a comic strip originally. It popped up on my radar when Adult Swim became a thing.
Right.
I don't know that I've ever actually seen an episode of it.
My aunt and uncle used to have the trades for it, so I read a bunch of that way.
It's an amazing comic strip. This insightful view. I mean, he... Never was hesitant to talk about anything or anyone, from, like I said, from political stuff to his hatred of BET, which is amazing.
How you gonna hate BET?
What's it? So going on, I said a few months ago, I started playing with the idea of video games. Something I always wanted to do, but never made the time for. It's a medium that feels right for our violently turbulent times and right for the Boondocks. I have no idea what the App Store will let us get away with. It's uncharted territory, and good to do something completely new with the characters. It won't be for every fan of the show or the comic strip, but is equally as sincere and still a bizarre political satire that's largely about race and inappropriate for children.
As it should be.
Yeah, right?
I mean, he's not wrong. That's pretty much exactly what I feel about our current political scheme. And that's not saying anything bad about, one party or another. The whole thing is just largely about race and not suitable for kids.
Yeah. He's gonna do what he can to make it the most, to get his message out. And I completely approve. For any these names that might mean something, he's working with a small team. His tech wizard / advisor is John Ema, and legendary DJ Pooh will be on to help out as well. So,
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so
Seriously,
yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it.
I know you're not one to speak about politics often,
Very
but
true.
the Boondocks is heavily politics play a big role in it. It's largely politicized. Have you heard of the comic strip called Little Donnie?
Little Donnie,
by Mike Norton. You should look at that because you might think it's funny.
Awesome. I'll check that out.
Check it out. It's really irreverent towards the current political administration.
Oh, right.
And it's great. Yeah. So it, like I said, not a huge week for news that hit my radar, just because I was so busy doing stuff. But one thing that was really, really cool that I did find out about, Black Panther broke $1 billion worldwide.
Woo!
So here's the thing. That's huge.
Absolutely.
Marvel movies don't do that. Maybe they may have 2 or 3 that have, but they're all tentpole movies.
Right.
As a standalone hero, for Black Panther to break $1 billion when it debuted in February is huge. And it speaks to the cultural phenomenon that this film is. And it speaks to the fact that this film is about so much more than just a hero in tights. Also, in that vein, it was confirmed that there is a sequel. We all kind of knew that. I think if anybody thought that there wasn't going to be a Black Panther sequel after the popularity of not only T'Challa, but of Shuri, of those surrounding characters. If you didn't think there was going to be a sequel, then A, you haven't paid attention to any Marvel movie that's came out. Thor 3, just that's all I have to say. You know, you got 3 Thors after an unsuccessful run at Thor.
Right.
You knew there was going to be a sequel to this. But there's also going to be possible spin-offs. Kevin Feige was doing an interview, and he dropped that. He didn't say that there would be. There's no...
Not Feige.
Oh, I think it's Feige.
It's Feige.
Jerry thinks he can talk with his hands on the podcast.
No, I was just going to say that if his name was wrong, then he could come on the show and fight Sean.
I'm a little rusty.
Everybody's tired and sluggish.
Aww.
But yes, Kevin Feige, if we're saying your name wrong, feel free to come on this podcast and Feige me.
But yeah, so he got on here and he was doing a few interviews, and he hinted that there very well could be spin-offs, which would be amazing because I personally would love a Shuri movie. I think that would be dope. Marvel's film franchises have largely, I'll say it, they have ignored the female demographic. They've ignored the black female demographic. Why Black Widow hasn't had her own movie yet is a fucking disgrace.
Yeah. And then they just announced that Captain Marvel is going to be like a comedy.
Yeah.
And I really don't like that they're going that route with it, because I feel like they kind of go a little too far with that in Marvel movies nowadays. They try to do too much slapstick humor, and it's their first female lead movie, and I feel like they need to take a more cautious approach with it, or, I don't know, take some notes from Wonder Woman. That was amazing.
I don't disagree with that at all. I am going to reserve judgment till I see it, but I will say this. Carol Danvers was an accomplished military pilot. She was an officer. She was a very serious person. She was not a quirky high school girl. And so if they make her into she was fucking Warbird. Mm-hmm. If they make her into a quirky high school girl, that does an extreme disservice to not only that character, but also to the characters that are quirky high school girls that deserve screen time as well. And Marvel has those.
She was also binary. Pretty big.
That's how Rogue got her powers.
Oh, from binary?
Well, no, sucking the life force out of Carol Danvers.
Yeah.
That's how she got her super strength and her flight.
Yeah.
It's the only one, as far as I'm aware, because that was during Rogue's villain days, that she actually killed.
Yeah.
So that's why she kept the powers. Unlike where normally lets go, she held on so long with not only killed her, I believe there was a few stories where she was haunted by her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was stuck in her brain for a little bit.
Yeah.
Good storyline, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Really good storyline.
All of her stuff with the brood and everything was always really cool.
I know. Yeah.
So
I hope they pay respect to it. But
I'm trying to be optimistic because I know it's been in production for a while, so we are because Black Panther is going to change. I guarantee the way Marvel's going to handle a lot of films. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to be as goofy as Guardians for every movie now. Yeah. And although Thor needed it because Ragnarok was magnificent, even with the slapstick humor. But the concern for that is that Ms. Marvel was still in production during that era.
Yeah.
So it may be like I said, I don't know a whole lot about her, but from what you just told me, I'm hoping it's more she's witty or she'll shit talker.
Yeah,
kind
and
of
I'm fine
more
with that.
so, not just like as much as I love Thor Ragnarok, I don't need to see her getting like pratfalls and slapstick like
Yeah,
that.
for sure. Certain movies do need it, and you mentioned some. Ant-Man and the Wasp absolutely need it, but
Right.
you know, not every movie needs it.
Can I just do one little complaint that I heard?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Okay, Thor's getting a new hammer, in Infinity War, right?
Oh.
Yes.
You know how bad I've been wanting Beta Ray Bill to be in the movies?
He was in
Yeah.
Ragnarok.
No, he
In a
was not in
sculpture.
Ragnarok. Fuck off. They have not given him any screen
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
They're totally shitting all over my character. So I found out from a friend, I don't know how good his sources are, but apparently the hammer that Thor is forging that's going to be his new hammer is fucking Beta Ray Bill Stormbreaker.
Well, you know he exists in the world, though. Because they did have a sculpture of him,
I
so
don't
you
think
know,
we're ever getting him.
you know,
But-
you can
No.
hope.
Now
They're going to fuck me
now,
up.
I don't know the hammers top of my head, but I
Mhm.
always thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I always thought Ultimate Thor's hammer looked very similar to Beta Ray's.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going that direction.
Maybe. They did just have a storyline about that hammer being around.
Oh.
It fucked a lot of people up, though. War Thor.
Oh,
Yeah.
that one. Oh, Jason Aaron.
Yeah.
Volstagg just.
Oh, okay, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I saw that. I saw that. You showed me the Volstagg page.
Yeah,
I haven't
man.
read that.
Volstagg was War Thor. It was amazing.
Badass.
He fucked the universe
But
up.
so, like, any speculation on what they'll do for Black Panther 2 with the way that movie ended? Like,
So
man,
I don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anyone besides Killmonger and Claw.
Yeah.
I legitimately don't know where they're going to go with it.
Well, there's a lot of villains that they can use. There's a lot of international villains. But so here's my speculation on it.
Mhm.
They've already got all of the movies written that lead up through Infinity Wars. That makes me think that there is. I think it'll probably come out before Infinity War 2. But it lets me know that that character's not going to die in Infinity War, which is what everybody's afraid of. It lets me know that there is going to be a connection with the characters that are in his film, and so he's not going to be off planet for too long, at least for the sake of that movie. And I think that they know what they're doing after Infinity Wars. I don't think this is the end of the Marvel Universe as we know it. There's a lot of people that think that as we lead up to Phase 4, we're going to get this culmination with Infinity Wars and the big battle with Thanos, and then that's going to be the end. I don't think that's going to happen. What I hope happens for me personally is that they get that. By the time that they've got that done, their issues with Fox and Universal are worked out, and after that is when they will hopefully debut their version of the X-Men. Hopefully it's when they will debut their version of the Fantastic Four. By that time, maybe Marvel will have a Fantastic Four comic book again. And you know what? If you're going to do Wakanda and if you're going to do Black Panther and you've got those rights, do Namor. You want to see it like that? That's those two have always, because they're so similar. Those two have always clashed really well together.
Right.
Yeah. I always forget that his rights were always wrapped up with the FF
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah. I'm really hoping that, because if they have things resolved with all of that by then, and we've got like Fantastic Four and X-Men shit like in our movie.
Yeah.
I'm just ready for them to start bringing other villains in to fight superheroes that aren't, their natural nemesis.
Well, and
like that.
with the majority of the heroes being off planet to fight Thanos, theoretically, that could be a great place to do it.
Mhm.
We do have mutants in the verse. They're just called gifted people.
Yeah.
Or they, the Scarlet Witch, that could very easily be retconned into, well, yes, they were a science experiment, but there was some genetic things in there that all we had to do was unlock in our science experiment, and they were already there. We know that Inhumans exist in these worlds because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that shows in continuity with the rest of these things. So there's a broader universe, and it's not ending anytime soon.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to see Shuri with her own thing, because Shuri's a badass.
Mhm.
I would love to see, like, if they do another Iron Man thing, I would love Shuri to be that character that's in it with him. Like,
Yeah.
I would love holy shit. Can you imagine Shuri and Tony Stark, like, being face-to-face and her not putting up with Tony Stark's I'm a rich white dude bullshit?
Mhm.
That would be great. Just,
And she, I mean,
Colonizers.
like I said, everyone's worried about like what characters are going to die, and we know there's probably at least going to be a few.
I think Cap's going to die.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be a very risky move to pull off, even if it's only a fake out. But what if in the first Infinity War, before the sequel Black Panther comes out, T'Challa is fucking vaporized? Shuri takes the mantle.
then I would stand
For that
up and
sequel.
applaud.
Yeah.
But I would also get real pissed off because
He only got one movie. So
well, but okay,
Well, you know, it's a Marvel death.
roll with me here.
Yeah.
Roll with me here. The first major film-altering accident was War Machine.
Yeah.
If they cripple War Machine and then they kill T'Challa, y'all can't be killing the black people first, guys.
The Walking Dead's been doing it for seasons. Okay, they just get a new one at the next.
oh my god.
The world will explode.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Of course.
all that's just kind of speculation.
Absolutely.
And you can tell we're all really excited about. I guess we can talk about what's actually been going on inside. Step away from the film for a little bit, and let's look at Marvel Comics. So recently, C.B. Cebulski became the editor-in-chief. There has been a lot of shakeups in the hierarchy of the editorial staff at Marvel. One person I never thought would be leaving anytime soon was a young assistant editor named Heather Antos. Now, if you don't know who Heather Antos is, she's been the assistant editor on a ton of Marvel books. There's a certain contingent of the internet world that does not like her. They don't like her work. They don't like her as a person. She was the...
Namely old white dudes.
kind of, or some young ones. But she was the young woman that on National... No, it wasn't even National Women's Day. It was to celebrate the death of the woman that was basically Stan Lee's right hand. And forgive me at this moment, I can't think of her name because I wasn't prepared to talk about it. But she got together with several other of the women at Marvel, and they went out for milkshakes. And they posted pictures of them all making milkshakes. And of course, people got on there and were, this is exactly what's wrong with Marvel, and a bunch of fake geek girls and this, that, and the other. Heather Antos is a lot of things, but a fake geek girl is not one of them.
Right.
She's a badass. I've got the utmost respect for her. But she's leaving Marvel, or has already left Marvel. She has gone on to bigger, I don't know if you'd say better things, but definitely a bigger thing. She's now the editor-in-chief of Unikrn, Unikrn. That is it's an esports betting and sports video game platform. So she's gone from being the assistant editor at Marvel to now she's the editor-in-chief, designing this video game platform that allows you to go on and I guess it's in many ways it's like fantasy football, fantasy baseball, esports, that kind of thing.
Right.
So we wish her the best of luck, and I personally am going to miss her influence in comics because I think she was a good assistant editor. I think she had a lot to offer. Do I think everything that she did worked? Did every dart she threw at the board stick? No, of course not. But she did a lot that I thought was really cool. So Jessica Jones is on TV now.
Jessica Jones is indeed on not television, not cable as we know it, but Netflix. Netflix original entertainment.
I watch it on my TV.
Oh shit, that's what you meant.
I don't know how any of that work. I just know when I put my hands on the long black thing and I push the right buttons, then white women show up on my TV.
Jesus Christ.
So I'm not sure what that witchcraft is.
All right,
but
so
it's a
Jessica
thing
Jones is a thing that's streaming on Netflix right now. The second season just came out Friday. I think that was the 7th, if I'm not mistaken. 8th. Maybe the 8th. Yeah, the 8th sounds right. So, what'd you guys think of this season?
Have either of you watched it yet?
My wife is liking it a lot. I've been a Monster Hunter, so I've only caught glimpses as I've been playing.
I'm trudging through Punisher right now.
Still playing catch up?
Yeah, I'm playing catch up. So and I feel like I have to watch them in order because that's just how
I think
my mind works.
I don't necessarily think you have to for this, but I think it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Two things.
Yes.
Friday was the 9th. You were wrong on all accounts, but time changed, and so we'll pretend like that had anything to do with it.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
But also, I've watched the first 2 episodes of it.
Uh-huh.
It's very good so far.
Yeah.
You're still dealing with a lot of the traumatic themes that you got in the first season, but it's nothing. It doesn't feel repetitive. There's been some really cool things, and so as always, when you're listening to our podcast, you should know that there's a certain level of spoilers that are going to happen when we talk about film, when we talk about television, movies, books, comics, anything. There's no point in us beating around the bush with everything. So if you haven't watched at least the first episode of Jessica Jones, unplug. And it's nothing major, but you get a very minor but badass character shows up in Jessica Jones.
Who is it?
It's Wizard.
Mm-hmm.
The Wizard shows up, and he is a bearded, chubby, out of shape guy who is scared shitless, and he's really fast. But yeah, he shows up in the first episode, and he's a client.
I believe he was a Spider-Man villain, wasn't he?
Possibly, but he's not a villain in this, which is
right.
really
But I think he originally was in one.
Listen,
Batman.
man, if we're going to start throwing out C-classers, I want Stiltman at
He's
some point.
well, but his outfit's been in Daredevil, so Stiltman. So did you not see that?
Yeah.
The man
But he is a C-class character. He's kind of a parody of the Flash.
Mhm.
I think that was what he was meant to be. But yeah, he shows up. I thought that was really cool. Again, I'm only through the second episode. I am going to hopefully get through it within the next week, but I haven't had time to watch much of it. Jessica Jones is my favorite, personally, of all the Netflix films. I probably am a minority when it comes to that. I think most people like Daredevil season 1. A lot of people are liking The Punisher.
I like Daredevil season 2.
Daredevil season 2.
Cage was really good.
Jessica Jones just hits me in the personality. I love that fear-based ideology.
Because you're both alcoholics.
That hang on, I have to drink.
Definitely, Jessica Jones is certainly more of a character study series
It
than
was.
like a lot of the other ones are.
Relatable.
And it's good, and it has its own, that's its own appeal. Side note, not much to report on this. I wasn't sure I was going to bring it up, but since we are talking Jessica Jones, little side note, Joe Quesada had shared some artwork he drew for Daredevil season 3, confirmed with him and who's the Daredevil actor? I can't think of his name, but like apparently his signature was on the artwork as well, and it's season 3 confirmed.
Is he wearing a yellow and red suit?
No.
God damn it.
Unless you go to Photoshop and make it out.
Is his name not Matt Murdock? Is he not really the Daredevil?
He is really the Daredevil.
Is that not how movies work?
I wasn't trying to give away his secret identity, Caleb.
Oh, shit.
Kingpin is a subscriber to this.
Sorry, Matt. You're going to have to go through and change and fix things again.
Other than that, were there any other hints in it, or was it just a picture?
It literally was a drawing of Daredevil leaping off a building that the columns kind of formed a 3. Roman numeral 3. That's all it was. It was just like announced.
I can look at Joe Q art all day long. That God bless it.
Love Joe Quesadilla.
We lost like 19 listeners, and we only have 20. So,
Joe Quesada, if you had a problem with Jerry calling Joe Quesadilla, feel free to come on the podcast and literally fight him.
I will hold him. I would hold you for
absolutely
Joe Quesada. One of the last things that I have that I think is important, and it really does need to be spoken on. There was a graphic novel that came out a year or two ago called The Fifth Beetle. A lot of us are music aficionados. Along with we're music, I don't know if we're aficionados, we're fans. We really dig. I just wanted to use a big word.
Don't put me on that pedestal.
I've got word of the day toilet paper. So no, a lot of us.
I'm renowned for my shitty taste in music, sir. Thank you.
A lot of us are music fans. The Beatles, even if you're not into the Beatles, I don't think that you can deny that their impact on the music world. They're probably some of the biggest names.
That's arguably one of the most influential bands, if nothing else. Probably never come out.
Just created everything.
Yeah.
It was about them, but more specifically, it was about their longtime manager Brian Epstein,
right?
Who, if you know the Beatles, you'll be familiar with him. If not, at one point in time, Paul McCartney referred to Brian Epstein as the Fifth Beatle. He was that important to the band. He was that important to their sound, their persona, and to getting them around and to handling their business. He was the unofficial Fifth Beatle. Well, The Fifth Beatle was a graphic novel that came out. It's phenomenal. You can probably pick it up at most bookstores. Your comic store can order it. They actually should. It's been optioned for TV, which I think is wonderful. I think if this thing actually makes it to the small screen, it's going to be a television version of the blockbuster.
And that's cool because, I like it when there's an adaptation of a comic book that doesn't scream comic book.
No, it's real life.
And exactly. I mean, it's like there's been actually a lot of movies and stuff that were comic books that weren't, capes and spandex.
Right, for sure.
So that's awesome. That'd be great just to see if maybe somebody, even if it's only one person watches that show, likes it and finds out it's based on a graphic novel.
Yeah, comes into a comic shop.
Absolutely.
I think that would be awesome. So for me, this is actually, it goes beyond music, though. Brian Epstein was an out gay Jew in Britain at a time when that was a felony.
Right.
He could have been arrested, imprisoned, chemically castrated, the same thing that happened to a ton of other people. But he had the, for lack of wanting to use a better phrase, he had the balls to be an out gay man that was hanging out with powerhouse people like John Lennon, like Ringo Starr, the rest of the Beatles, Paul McCartney, the other one. I just got hate mail right there. He had the audacity to be himself and be out. And that's part of that book. It's a very important part of that book. So if you're into comic books, go read it and get ready to watch the show. If you're into music, go read The Fifth Beetle and get ready to watch the show. If you give a shit about queer culture, go read it and get ready to watch the show. If you tangentially just like things that are good, go read it and get ready for the show. Yeah, and so that's all the news that I really was able to collect this week. Like I said, super busy with AWP, which was the writing thing. I got to travel around and meet some really cool writers, some people that I'm a big fan of. I got to meet the gentleman that wrote the textbook that I recommended earlier. That was super good. Tom Hart. Mainly, I got to go watch Black Panther again with a writer named Amina Gautier. If you're not familiar with Amina Gautier, and for a lot of people probably aren't, she's a very, very famous, very, very rising author. She writes a lot of short stories. She's on the short list. If she ever writes a novel, she'll probably win the Nobel Prize. Wow. Like, not even bullshitting. She's that good, and she's that well known. Me and her went and watched Black Panther together, and it was kind of awesome. She's an Afro-Caribbean writer, so getting to go watch that with her meant a lot to me personally, and there's 0% chance that she's going to listen to this podcast, but just in case that she does, Amina, thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for going to the movies, and thank you for, in general, being my friend. I love you to death, and, she teaches at the University of Miami, so those of you who are interested in an MFA program in writing and want to go live in Miami because it's Miami, go to Amina Gautier.
AKA Caleb stalked this poor woman and ended up having to pay for a Black Panther ticket just to get close to this.
Hey, Roger, we're moving to Florida, boo. But while I was at While I was at AWP, there is a store in Tampa. It's actually a chain of stores. Somehow, this store got connected to, I don't know if it's with DC or I don't know if it's with Diamond or what it is, but they are the outlet for all of like these DC backstock.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Hardcover collected editions of everything that you can think of for like $2 and $3. I got like 18 different hardcovers and spent $40. This is over $200 worth of stuff. It was insane. So while I was there, of course, I was just missing you guys dearly. So
you weren't even thinking about us.
Oh, that's not true.
You were salivating over hardcover books.
I was absolutely missing you guys dearly. I really was.
I don't buy it either, dude.
I picked up things for you guys.
What?
Yeah. This is for you. For Jerry, I got. Can I see that back for just a second? I gave it to you now.
No, you already gave it to
me. For Jerry, I picked up Green Lantern: The Greatest Stories Ever Told. Oh. It is a. This is not a hardcover, but it is a collected edition that's got, I want to say, 7 or 8 different stories in it. It's got an introduction by Peter Tomasi. It collects the SOS Green Lantern, which was originally done in Showcase number 22, 1959, by John Broome and Gil Kane. The 2 words Gil Kane should tell you everything you need to know. Most of the stories in this book, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are Gil Kane. Then you get into Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams writing and drawing it. You get Judgment Day, which was Green Lantern 172 from 84 by Len Wein and Dave Gibbons. Tomorrow's Hero, which was Green Lantern 2002, Pete Woods and Jamal Engel. And I saw it, and I know how much of a huge fan you are of the Green Lantern, and I wanted you to have it.
And they got an awesome cover by Alex Ross.
It is. Yeah,
I was waiting for my time to point that out.
It's
an amazing
fancy.
Alex Ross cover.
So, Sean, I actually had already gotten you something before I was able to make the trip. So what I got you is not a graphic novel, but I think you're really going to dig it. Sean has not talked about this on the show, but Sean is a big fan of Wu-Tang.
True.
Sean loves some Wu-Tang Clan. I found this book. It's a collection of short stories. It's done by Clash Publishing. It is a Wu-Tang tribute anthology edited by Grant Womack and Christopher Paul. It's a collection of short stories based on and idealized from Wu-Tang.
Huh.
So you get stories that are named after Wu-Tang tracks. I saw it and I actually I bought this the first day when I saw it there because I thought it was amazing. I actually got it signed by the guy that edited it.
Wow.
It's done by Clash Books. It's an eclectic collection of crime, horror, bizarro, science fiction, ninja action, noir, mythos, literary fiction that gives tribute to one of the best hip-hop groups of all time. And I saw it, and I want to give it to you on the condition that I get to read it at some point.
You will get it right after I'm done. Awesome. Thank you.
I thought you would dig that.
I was actually looking at it while you were gone earlier, and I was like, oh, this looks like something Sean would love.
Yeah.
Which, it just says it all. That this book ain't nothing to fuck with.
Yep.
Much like the Wu-Tang.
And the editor signed it, Bring the Noise.
Wow. Nice.
So I wanted you to have that.
So watch The Man with the Iron Fists. Weren't crazy about it?
I love Wu-Tang, but I really thought RZA was going to come harder with that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Not terrible. Maybe I had high expectations.
You obviously haven't seen the sequel.
RZA, if you're offended by that and you come here, just know that I ain't said shit. Don't take me out. So I don't know if Craig will listen to this before he gets back and I'll be able to give this to him or not. But in case, I'm sorry for spoiling the surprise, Craig. But I got Craig the collected Sandman dust covers. It's designed and illustrated by Dave McKeon, Sean.
If he happened to have said your name wrong, feel free to come on the show and fight us about it.
It's also got new story and commentary by Neil Gaiman and Dave McKeon. It's basically a collection and an annotation of all of the Sandman covers. If not maybe not all, but definitely most of. Some beautiful, beautiful artwork and done this. Those of you who are longtime fans of our whole 10 episodes of the show know how much Craig loves Sandman. And so I grabbed this for him, and I wanted him to have it. Because I missed you guys. I missed our Wednesday. I missed our Wednesday roundup. But the store is called Ollie's, by the way. In case I forgot to say that, I'll listen to it later. But yeah, so it's a chain. I paid $2.99 for most of these books. I got collected editions that have like 40 issues for $6. So if there's an Ollie's near you, buy us things and bring it to us. Because you should. Because you love us. Because you're fans. Anyway, yeah, I had a great week in Tampa. I spent way too much money. I'm very tired. My neck hurts. My back hurts. The back of my neck hurts. I drove 16 hours both ways. And I'm glad to be home with my puppies, my dogs, my husband, and you guys.
Oh, well, thank you very much for the books.
Oh, you're welcome, guys. I hope you enjoy them. I do want to read that, Bo, whenever you get done with it.
Absolutely.
So speaking of conventions and going places, Jerry's raising his hand.
I was going to mention that Plastic Man series.
Oh, we're not through with news. I'm sorry.
Jesus. Skipping ahead there, pal.
Do it, buddy.
DC just announced that they're launching a new Plastic Man miniseries. And it's going to be written by Gail Simone, and the art's going to be Adriana Mello. And it looks pretty good.
Gail Simone writing Plastic Man.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, and...
that's not nearly as good as Gail Simone writing Domino, because Marvel's better, but...
Well, debatable.
I'll be getting that Domino book, but I love Gail Simone's writing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want her to make me read Plastic Man. I'm sorry. I'm sure he has his fans, and I'm probably losing people. Fuck Plastic Man.
It could be wrong. It could be the Elongated Man.
Oh, my God.
Both of those are...
Mr. Digby.
Man, Plastic Man, he's got his spots. And if you've been reading DC, he's actually had a lot to do with this recent metal thing that's going on. And he's in the Terrifics right now.
Yeah. Granted, the only thing I know about Plastic Man was the 1970s cartoon, so I'm just not a fan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't give a shit. It's DC. He's not in my wheelhouse. I do read DC.
But it is Gail Simone.
I've read enough things with Plastic Man. Was Ralph Dibny elongated man?
Yes.
Yeah, Ralph Dibny was Elongated Man.
I know he was one of the ones that I really what they did that Identity Crisis with.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had him in Gail Simone's Secret Six.
I think so.
Yeah.
I didn't read that.
Well, like it started off and it was this whole thing of like this big like grizzly gangster hitman looking guy. And then you find out that it was really Ralph Dibny the whole time, and he was just expanding himself to keep up appearances and stuff, and that was pretty badass. But yeah, Plastic Man is in the Terrifics, and Terrific seems like it's going to be pretty good. He's very slapstick comedy, and Gail Simone even mentions, like in the interview that they had, that he was doing all the slapstick funny shit, you know, back way before Harley or Deadpool were like that at all. So
She ain't wrong.
Yeah, that's very much true.
Yeah.
I like Ralph Dibny, and I really liked him in 52. I missed the way Sue answered the phone.
Oh my God. Too soon.
It'll always be too soon. So is that all the news we have for this week, guys?
Yeah.
Awesome. Again, I want to let you guys know that we do have our Facebook. It is live. You can post things like news articles and stuff. So if there are things that you want us to talk about throughout the week, post them. And we can have a conversation on Facebook. We can talk to you guys about it, let you know what we like. Someday Jerry will figure out how to post as himself and not as the actual SFG podcast. But until then, most of the time you're saying that's Jerry.
It's androids.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the only way we can't do it through the app.
Oh, you meant like the phone Android.
Yeah.
I thought there was actual androids.
No,
Or robots.
not robots.
Robots working
robots
against
are the
us.
thing. But yeah, for some reason the iOS app won't let you change. But if you go onto the actual browser and go into Facebook, then you can.
Very
it makes
cool.
no sense.
I don't. Yeah. I'm a member of the iCult. So.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm excited again. You know why I'm excited again?
Why are you excited?
Because we've got another interview.
You mean another interview that we did like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, another interview that we did
No,
like
it's
three
editing
weeks
magic.
ago.
Doesn't matter.
So while we were at Not Another Comic-Con here in Little Rock, we had the opportunity to sit down with Gregbo Watson and his beautiful lady friend that he brought with him, who is a professional cosplayer in her own right. But we were...
She had a great Squirrel Girl costume.
She did have
Yeah,
a great
she did.
Squirrel Girl costume. But yeah, so we spoke with her and we spoke with Gregbo for a little bit. Gregbo's actually he's an artist for Xenoscope, and he does a lot of the fairy tale based books.
GFT books.
Yeah, the Grim
Grim Fairy Tales.
Yep, those.
Yep. You did this interview, right?
I'm not tired. I did. Gregbo was an amazing person to sit down and talk with. His art is phenomenal. I bought a Black Panther cover from him that he did that's beautiful, just gorgeous art. If you get a chance to see Gregbo at a convention, then you should absolutely go up and talk to him, purchase his art because it's beautiful, and, hang out with him for a second because he's one of the nicest people that I've met.
Mention our podcast and he might give you a discount.
Probably not.
Probably not, but mention it anyway. Just a side note, because I wasn't able to sit in during the interview with him, but as I mentioned, I was walking around that convention dressed as Kevin Owens from the WWE, and I walked by his booth, just kind of nodded to him, but he stopped and was like, hey, recognized the costume and then explained about his son is actually a indie wrestler.
Yeah.
So, super nice guys. I got to talk to him a little bit, but not about comics, about pro wrestling.
Man, and that's cool because we're actually, that's a good segue. So, there's a pro wrestling, a little event coming up.
You're talking about that? Yeah, you may have heard of Wrestle fucking Mania.
Yeah, that one.
WrestleMania is coming up, and that's April 7th.
Yeah, and so before that happens, we're actually going to do a wrestling-based episode that I'm kind of excited about because it's one of those things that I don't have a foot in that world anymore. I don't watch wrestling anymore. It's not in my wheelhouse just because it's not something I'm interested in any longer. But
it's
you guys,
the only half-naked male sport that Caleb doesn't watch, actually.
I know, right?
yeah, there's not enough penetration.
You haven't watched the current, bro.
But you guys are interested in that. You watch almost every pay-per-view. You go to see them every time they come by. You've spoken a little bit about it on the show, and I'm really excited to do this wrestling special with you. So those of you out in Radio Land, keep an eye on that. And you know what? Reach out to us and let us know what you're excited about or what you want us to talk about when it comes to wrestling, both current and old school.
Yes, we'll be covering all eras. I mean,
yeah, man.
I'm obviously the super fan of the four, but every one of y'all I've seen, of the hosts, we've seen wrestle at some point in our lives. So, I mean, that goes back to Hulkamania, to the Attitude Era, to current.
Oh, shit. We're going farther than that. We're going to talk about Bret and Owen Hart. We're going to talk about Big Daddy Diesel. We're going to talk about Razor Ramon.
He's showing the Attitude Era.
Yeah. Oh, is that the Attitude Era? I thought the Attitude Era was when those guys were like NWO Wolfpack.
Well, that's Attitude Era since WCW lost the Wrestling War. Attitude Era is what they've classified that whole the Monday Night War.
You guys could get into it right now, but you really need to save the segment, okay?
If you want to hear more, you need to tune into the wrestling special, brother.
I can go ahead and guarantee you that they won't fuck up any of those guys' names because Sean does not want to challenge any of them.
Like, look, dude, I'm tie up any time. But yeah, look forward to that. I'm sure I'm going to be taking the reins as the resident wrestling fan here. Please comment on our Instagram, on our Facebook, any way you get a hold of us. Twitter especially, easy to get a hold of us by. Just if there's anything you want us to kind of bring up in general, I'm thinking about actually taking in some questions and see what we can answer and discuss. I want to lock anything in because, life happens, but we are hoping to have a guest on that episode and who's very knowledgeable about the business. So
that's going to be a lot of fun, man. But now let's take a break. Quit listening to me and Sean, and you should never listen to Jerry.
Yeah.
But
wait, what?
Let's listen to Mr. Gregbo Watson tell us a little bit about his art and a little bit about the comics world.
Southern Fried Geekery.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. I'm Caleb.
I'm Craig.
And we are sitting here with the incredible Gregbo Watson.
Correct.
And we are sitting here with his cohort, Miss, I'll let you announce yourself.
Misty Yates.
Misty Yates, who is about as talented as she is beautiful, and that's incredible.
Oh, thank you.
So, guys, first off, thank you both for sitting down and talking to us. I know
Glad
you guys
to.
are incredibly busy. How's the convention treating you this
Oh,
weekend?
we loved it. We loved it. We got to meet a whole new group of people. This is our first time in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas. The fans have been great. We've just had a blast, I'll tell you.
Fantastic. Awesome.
That's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, I'm in the studio all week and getting to come out and meet the fans in person, talk to everybody, cut up. Because, as you know already, I'm a social animal. I mean, it's easy to get me talking. It's much more difficult to get me shut up. So
we can relate to that on several different levels. So talk to us a little bit before we get too far into this about some of the stuff you've worked on, some of the stuff you've done.
Sure, I've done pieces for Zenoscope Entertainment that does like the Grimm Fairy Tales, Grimm Tales of Terra, Alice in Wonderland, pinups, horror, fairy tale characters. It's just everything right up my alley. I've done some stuff for Marvel with Guardians of the Galaxy. I've done for 20th Century Television. I did currently there is a television commercial running. Very happy won a big award for that one. It's for the I guess remake or what do you call it? And they've re-released it in high definition, I guess you'd say. And it's the old series, and the commercial's done kind of like it was a comic book, and they had like Mulder, Scully, and everybody in there running around.
Yeah.
And
So the X-Files.
Yeah. So
man.
all the comic book artwork that's flashing on the screen, that's mine.
That's
So
incredible, man.
yeah, it's a
You
trip.
get to see some of your work on TV.
Yeah,
That's
it's
gotta
pretty
be
wild.
Cool.
Pretty wild. It drove me crazy
don't
while I was
ever see
working
it.
on it. Yeah, we don't ever see it because I don't
Tell
know.
us about it.
People tell us about it all the time, but yeah.
Yeah, so it makes you feel any bad. I had to watch it on YouTube earlier because I don't actually have satellite or cable. We got off we unplugged about 4 years ago, so I do the Netflix and the Hulu. But
It's the greatest
Same.
television commercial nobody ever saw. It's really good. Now we get people coming up to us all the time that say they've seen it, and we've got it. They sent us a clip of it, so we have the clip, and we're supposed to. We've got one of those little. She got me one of those little. What do you call them? The digital frames that play those things, and we were supposed to have this thing set up. And I looked at it like the day before we were coming up here. I looked. And it's one of the, it's got the AC plug, and I thought it was like a USB plug that could plug into one of those little power sticks or whatever. And no go. So we were going to have it with us, but maybe for the next year.
hey, trust me, we can relate to technical difficulties.
We are on our
That's my
fourth
middle
mic.
name.
We have lost entire episodes.
4 mics in 7 episodes. So,
That's my middle name is Gregbo Technical Difficulties Watson.
So getting to work on these characters, these like I know you do a lot of Alice in Wonderland.
Absolutely,
a lot of
love Alice.
The Grimm fairy tale stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mix it with horror. First off, how did you kind of come into that position? And second off, how did you get a full-time, amazing-looking Alice in Wonderland to accompany you to places?
I want to hear this one.
yeah. I'll come up with some kind of good little lie here. And it's going to be
start
entertaining.
with
No,
the
I'll
comic
tell
book
you.
while you think.
Hey,
Okay, well,
you gotta ride with me.
yeah, I know, right? I got a long ride home, a 10-hour ride home with her, so I better get this right. Well, it started out with the comics. I did comics back in the 90s and was doing some small independent things. And I got out. My son was born. I couldn't travel as much.
Yeah.
So I went and I was a creative director for various advertising firms for years. And as my son got older, I looked at him one day and I said, you're old enough. You can stay at home by yourself. So I went back and doing what I love in the comics. And it started out, I was just kind of playing around. and drew a comic page with some zombies, a girl getting attacked by zombies in a cemetery. You know that old tale. Zombie meets girl in cemetery, girl screams. Anyway, I posted it online because when I was doing it before, we didn't have the advantages of social media and everything. Posted it online. The very next day after I posted it, the art director for Zenescope called.
Now, when you say you posted online, was that I know back in the day, a lot of guys, I think Brett Weiser, Mike words, Mitch Brett Weiser, and a lot of those guys were in. They used the net to like do drawings and share them and stuff. Was there a specific website that you did that on? Or?
It was called Everywhere. Any place that would let me post it. I think I posted it on and I don't know which one he saw it on, but I posted it on Facebook. I don't think Instagram was around at the time because this is kind of semi-new. I did Twitter, DeviantArt.
DeviantArt, I think, was what I was thinking.
It's all over the place. But DeviantArt's become now. It's like trying to get seen on DeviantArt is like casting a grain of sand into the ocean.
Yeah.
I posted on there. It came back. He called me the next day, and I'd been out of the comic scene for a while, so Zenescope had come up, and I didn't realize how well known they were. And I was sitting there looking it up on the computer while I was talking to him, and I saw the stuff, and the stuff was amazing. And they're just an amazing company. It's beautiful. And wonderful stories, and like I said, it had everything I looked for. It was a fairy tale characters. The girls all drawn in a pin-up-y type style, and the stories are all revolving around horror and that type of thing. So it had everything I was interested in. So, I couldn't have jumped on quick enough. So I've been doing stuff for them ever since, and then a lot of freelance. And
they're absolutely a guilty pleasure of mine.
Oh man, that's great. Yeah,
they absolutely are.
And it's fun stuff.
It's gorgeous, and it's not something that you see from every other publisher.
No, absolutely not.
It's very much standalone, and it stands out.
Well,
it does.
And one thing they do that I like, and I'm sure that you as an artist like, is they do a lot of covers, which gives artists out there a chance to show their wares to people because they do so many different covers. It's more work.
Oh, absolutely. It's more work, and there's when you do those different covers. The chances are usually do about at least 4 regular covers per episode issue, and there at least somebody can find one cover that really speaks to them and they really like.
Absolutely.
And I really enjoy doing the covers. I've done a lot of the interiors, a lot of the stories. Did 2 of the 10th. I was the only Zenescope artist that I'm aware of that actually did 2 of the 10th anniversary issues. Had a lot of fun doing those.
Which issues were those?
I did Alice in Wonderland 10th anniversary, and I did Death 10th anniversary.
Okay.
And I got to work some really great people on there, and I consider that some of my best storytelling and page and panel work so far is in those 2 books. But they're a great company to work with. They're give their creatives a lot of leeway.
Yeah.
And we try to let it explode on the page, and everybody who does stuff for Zenescope that I've ever talked to, artist, writer, so into it, and they kind of leave their hearts and souls on the page, which is interesting.
There's a couple of younger, I say younger, smaller publishers that have started taking that model, especially with the you've got the creator-owned movement coming into comics and everything. Aftershock is really good about doing that.
Oh, very so.
Zenescope has always been good about doing that. Jim Zub and his and he'll shoot me next time I see him for not being able to remember what his publication company is called. But they're really good about giving their storytellers across the board the opportunity to kind of do what they want to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And the right to creative expression.
Oh, I agree. And when you love what you do and you put it into long hours are worth it, and you get to you really, I think it translates a lot better to the fans.
Yeah.
And each thing I do for Zenescope is kind of like my love letter to the fans.
Right.
I put extra time into it, and I sweat over those things too.
Well, it's your calling card.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
It's what's selling your next project.
Oh,
in many ways.
totally.
Well, and
Totally.
it shows in your work too.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you. You're too kind.
Well, no, I mean,
See, I'm not going to be able to get my head in the car now. when we get home, so.
I'm
You know,
gonna
Well,
just
let's
strap him to
let's
the
build
roof.
hers up for a little bit because
Yeah.
Yes.
you.
Well,
I want to know this story.
Well, this is my girlfriend, Misty Yates, and we met at a mutual friend of ours. Had a birthday party for her kid, and we went down there and we met. And I was supposed to dress up like Darth Vader for the kid's birthday party, and I was told that it was this great. We've got this great. We've rented a Darth Vader costume, so you guys, you know the deal. You've been to the con, so you've seen the Darth Vader costumes. Right. So I'm thinking lights and a big helmet, bomb, 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 bomb. I get down there, and it looks like an adult version of the kid's costume, and it stops right here on my, like short sleeve. Vinyl ones from the 70s.
It's
I think.
Like an apron.
Yeah, well, it didn't have a cape, so we had to get like a bed sheet.
Oh my gosh!
And so
no pants. So
no
you had
pants.
just the
It's jeans, and then the Darth Vader gloves. So I called myself Bubba Vader. And
hey, we're Southern Fried Geekery, the debut of Bubba Vader.
Bubba Vader, the redneck Sith. So so I looked at her. I looked at Misty, and I said, "Hey, do me a favor." I said, because apparently they had the bright idea, because it was in January, right? And they were all outside watching like one of these big inflatables, like episode 1 or something, and this big inflatable like movie screen, and they were showing it on there outside. So I walk outside, and as soon as I get outside on the front steps, walk out to where the kids are, and I've got a little lightsaber and everything, my lenses fogged up in the glasses. I could see nothing. So I got Misty here to walk me over to where the kids were. Now, also right before I went out, I realized that the same people who had rented this costume, and again, they're dear friends, went to high school together, but apparently they don't like me too much because they had the bright idea to give all the kids at the party these little lightsabers, right? So I told my son, I said, and my son's a pro wrestler now, and I said, Brett, do me a favor. Keep the little kids from hitting me with the lightsabers. He said, I got you, Dad. I got you. I'm on it. So we get out there, and everything's fine. I could even hear my son, don't hit him with a lightsaber. So we turn around for me to walk inside. Misty's got me by the arm, right? And then all of a sudden, I start feeling something behind me. Wow. I'm like, ow, I'm like, Brad, and it starts getting harder. Wow. And just knocking, one just came up and stung. And I said, Misty, where's Brett? And she goes, that is Brett.
Gotta love the
so we've been together ever since.
Patricide kind of goes with being.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, it's like it's like me versus Luke or something.
Yeah, right.
Yes, Brett, you heard me. I compared you to Luke.
Well, I actually want to ask you about your son here in just a minute.
Sure.
Let's talk about some of the stuff you're telling me as a pro wrestler. Now, you're obviously, this being kind of radio, they can't see what you're wearing, but you are dressed up in the very much the Alice in Wonderland outfit, if I'm not mistaken.
Based on his banner.
Yeah, based on his banner. How did you get into cosplay? Was that just by osmosis through him, or were you already into that kind of beforehand? Or?
Pretty much. I mean, I've always liked dressing up for Halloween and stuff like that, but we started going to conventions right before he started really getting into being, an artist and featured at the conventions. And we went to Dragon Con.
Well, she had told me. She said I like all this stuff. I like dressing up, and I like watching Spider-Man the movie and all this kind of thing. She goes, I didn't realize there was anybody else but me, any other females but me that like watching it. I said, come with me.
You have found your niche.
Yes. You have taken your first step into a much larger world.
Whether it's a good or bad is your decision. But
but we went to Dragon Con.
Over in Atlanta.
And that was my actual first one, which is huge.
Yeah. And that one is known for being cosplay. That's not necessarily known to be a Comic-Con. Dragon Con, its main thing is cosplay.
Oh, yeah, it's changed so much over the years.
And I told him, I said, I've got to dress up. I've got to do this. So then I started dressing up, and then when we started actually doing the conventions, as a featured artist, I just dressed up to be at the table, helping out at the table, and that's been 6 years now, and it's kind of grown to where I've started being guest judge for competitions, and I've also competed. Won
Best in Show.
I've won Best in Show. At one of the conventions, and So I'm just, I've been doing
Best girlfriend of a professional artist. See what I did there, guys.
Yeah.
Hashtag boyfriend points.
There you go. Yeah.
Where's that award?
So now, when it comes to your costuming, I know a lot of it you do based off of his work. But do you do anything? Do you branch out outside of that or things?
I do. Anything that I see, that I was like, oh, I'd like to do that costume. But now, as I've started to make more and more of my own, sometimes I'll see a costume and I'll just think, oh, I want to make that piece of it.
Yeah.
So it kind of evolved into that.
And she comes to me sometimes, like, she'll start talking about a costume she wants to do. And she was like wanting to do a steampunk Wicked Witch.
Yeah.
And I sat down and I was like, hey, I'm going to do some sketches of this. And sometimes it's kind of worked both ways now. Sometimes she will cosplay something I've drawn.
Yeah, you're feeding off of each other creatively.
Right. And sometimes she'll come up with an idea and I'll draw it after she's cosplayed it.
Yeah.
So you get to do a little bit of fashion work.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And I've got one over there I did. It's a female Boba Fett, like a pinup. And I call her Barbie Fett. And she did like the Barbie Fett costume, built it from scratch. And then she came up with the idea of like the steampunk Wicked Witch. And,
that
I did
became
the like,
a poster for that was a Halloween comic fest, I think.
Yes, it was. Yes.
So, yeah, we went both ways on that.
Yeah.
That's the mark of a good relationship.
That's true.
So your son is a professional wrestler. These
That
days.
is correct.
Let's throw him some love out there.
Yeah,
to the
sure.
universe. So tell me
Yeah,
a little
because
bit
he
about
needs
him.
it. He's so modest and everything.
Now, I actually want to preface this. I actually embarrassed myself a little bit ago
Yeah.
because you have a sketch cover of a WWE book, and
Correct.
as most of our listeners know, our buddy Sean is a giant WWE fan.
Right.
Well, I was actually looking at it and thinking about buying it, and then I realized there was a small sticker, but it says not for sale, and I was going to buy it, and having zero clue who this this wrestler that had been drawn on it was, but I was going to, I was looking at it, get it, and so we were over there talking. I'm like, yeah, but I have no idea who that were, and you're like, oh, well, this is my son, and it's forgive my ignorance on that. It's just not an area that I know
no
much
problem.
about.
He's starting out in terms of pro wrestling. He's been doing it about 2.5 years, and he's turning 20 this year. So he's young and he's just now starting in his career. But prior to switching over and going into pro wrestling, he won 2 gold medals in the NAGA, the North American Grappling Association tournament, and then a gold medal in Judo Gene LaBelle's Open Challenge. And currently right now he's the IWA World Cruiserweight Champion. And he's doing great. I mean, he travels all over and wrestles, and he wrestles with a group called the Legends. And the Legends is kind of like, think of the old Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
And it's really unique because you've got 2 veterans, Buckshot Carter and Chuck Sloan, and then they're kind of like the figureheads, old school guys in the ring. And then you've got my son who's coming along, who's young with an MMA background, and then my son's girlfriend. Fiance actually makes the long engagement. I told him, I said, son, it's going to be a long engagement. And I love her because couldn't have handpicked a better girl for him. But I told him, I said, y'all got to get everything straight before you tie that knot. But and then her name's Michaela, and she comes in and wrestle. She is a manager as Mickey May, and she swings a purse and hits them and. It's really great. They're heels, and they do a great job.
Well, we'll have to get your contact information for him because at some point we're going to figure out this whole Skype recording thing.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd love to have him call in and talk to Sean and Craig.
He does that all the time. So he'd be glad to.
We need to set that up because Sean is actually running his own booth over there, so he's not able to do the interviews. Well, you can see him from here. He kind of looks like a sad puppy dog because he knows where he's over here. We'll set that up where he can actually talk.
Oh, yeah, he'd love it, yeah.
That's his bread and butter.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to kind of put you on the spot here a little bit. There's a question that I ask all of our, whenever we talk to artists, and it's something that just from being a fan, I'm going to carry it over.
The answer is purple. Purple.
That's going to be an interesting
Okay, go ahead.
when you look back at your history with comic books, when you look back from your childhood, who is the first artist that you remember really standing out, that you remember putting a name to that art? For me, I just kind of let you know I'm asking. For me, it was George Perez. For me, I read comics, and I love comics, and comics are cool. And then I opened up a copy of Kurt Busiek and George Perez's Avengers when they did it. And I knew at that point, I looked at it, I saw that art, and I said, oh, this is somebody doing this. This is just not magic pictures that show up on the page. This is somebody doing this, and I need to find out who this is and follow them because I enjoy their art.
Okay.
Who was the first person you really discovered as an artist?
Okay, well, it's going to be a kind of like a weird multi-part answer.
That's fine.
Okay.
We like those.
It started out, what sent me on my career overall in art is one of my earliest memories is my parents taking me to a re-release of Disney's Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Okay, and seeing that up on the screen, that's when I knew I wanted to get in art, and I started drawing ever since that time and never stopped.
Is that where your love affair with Tinkerbell came from?
Oh, exactly. Yes. It's gotten scandalous at times.
Hey.
We won't discuss that. And if you want any more information about that, tabloids.
That's for another podcast.
Yeah, another podcast altogether. Right. So, but then, when I was much younger, my grandfather would take me to get like, back when, you had those spinner racks and stuff. He'd take me out to one of the convenience stores, in South Carolina, and we would get like a big bag of candy and all that kind of stuff. And I'd always get a comic or two, and I'd read them, but I don't think I was like mature enough at the time to sit down and realize, what's going on and everything. My first foray into superheroes, unlike a lot of people, wasn't comics. It was, God help me, the Super Friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was always pro Legion of Doom. Because I was like, come on, guys, you can do it. Right. Yeah. So that's where I got my first intro into comics in general, or superheroes rather, in that genre. But I have to say, in terms of the first artist I ever saw that just loved the work, connected with it, and kind of followed along with it, and there's been many since, and I draw a lot of influences from a lot of different artists and things, but I'd have to say the first one was Todd McFarlane.
Okay.
It was Todd McFarlane, and his run on Spider-Man.
Very cool. It's amazing how much that little twirl around
that one detail on the
webbing, how it changed the webbing forever.
Well, exactly, and the posture of Spider-Man, if you look at it, Spider-Man became so disjointed. And I just think he had a really good fusion between almost like Japanese manga and American style comics.
He said that before that he pulled
really,
a lot
yeah.
from that.
Well, I mean, it's really evident, and just what he did, and being able to take, put a little bit more cartoony features in the characters, because with those cartoony features, the way he made them work, I mean, you really actually could get. I mean, he just really sold the expression, and he just made them fun.
Yeah,
they were fun. And I enjoyed looking at them. It was just like, a visual buffet.
It put that animation.
Right, it did.
And it made them look like they were, even though they're still on the page, they look like they were mobile.
Exactly. And breaking the borders, and I do a lot of that. I steal a lot of that from Todd McFarlane.
Yeah.
I love breaking the borders.
That from Kirby. I mean.
Oh, yeah, Kirby. Oh. You me started on Kirby. I love Jack Kirby, man.
I think that's like you have to.
You almost have to, and I had a young artist tell me one time, he's like, I looked into this Jack Kirby, and I just don't understand why everybody loves his stuff so much, because it looks like, and I'm sitting here going, are you kidding? And he's like, well, look at all these, every detail you see in the comics nowadays. I said, look back then. I said, plus, let me just say, Kirby wasn't drawing one book a month.
No.
He was drawing like 30.
Yeah, he was writing the story.
He would
do 15 pages a day.
Yes, there's a reason he's called the King.
Yes. One of the only men that could draw with a cigar and smoke a pencil.
Oh yes, absolutely. And some of his character designs for like the galactic characters and stuff, because I was talking to you guys before about I just got finished drawing a Galactus thing for a comic book store down in Florence, and I was sitting there drawing Galactus, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, how in the name of the world and all that's holy did he come up with this costume for this giant guy? But it's just his imagination was just
outstanding.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
His influence is still seen.
Oh, absolutely. The Kirby Crackle. I use that all the time. I think there's not a comic book artist alive that doesn't at some point use the Kirby Crackle.
Well, and art, especially comic art, is like a lot of other things. You have styles that come into popularity and then fade away, then come back and fade away. And right now, especially with the cinematic universe blowing up and making the comic realm more possible, we're seeing a lot more of the Kirby-esque style show up. Not only in our books again, but on television.
Well, it's the storytelling too. You had Kirby's storytelling was like it just over the top, and people like Jack Kirby and Will Eisner. I mean, they actually created the things that we take for granted nowadays as artists, the storytelling devices and the pacing and the layouts.
Especially with Eisner and the way that he manipulated panels. So, I mean, you look at
he was a master.
The spirit.
Master.
Look at all of that stuff. But back to McFarlane, guys like him and Jim Lee, they really do. To me, those guys, they are the epitome of what the '90s comics were. And I know the '90s comics get a lot of flack.
Yeah.
But and some of it deservedly, not from those guys.
Yeah.
But you look at the books and how that era and what those guys did that spawned the industry. Literally spawned the industry.
Well, it's like Kirby and it's like Kirby and those guys, Kirby and Eisner. I mean, they kind of formed the industry and they created our visual language that we as artists speak in on the drawn page. But it's guys like McFarlane and Jim Lee and Wilkes Portacio,
it was revolutionary.
And these guys, it was revolutionary. They took the direction it was going and then they added on to that language and branched it off to get us to where we are now.
I mean, there were big changes that happened in comic books in the 90s.
Silvestri.
That made comics almost more fun to read than you go back and read them.
Definitely.
The Silver Age books are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But it's too wordy sometimes. They don't allow the artist to, now because of what happened in the 90s.
It became artist driven.
Yeah, yes. They let the artist tell more of the physical story instead of trying to describe it all for us.
Oh, absolutely. It's like one of my favorite writers to work with is Pat Shand, over at Cinescope. And Pat is one of those that he's just got such a great imagination. It's just such a great handle on like the interactions between the characters and the character motivations and stuff that it really gives me as an artist a lot of ideas. And then when I come back in there and I do something, it's like I'll never forget we were working on one of the, I think it was Down the Rabbit Hole, I believe. And, there was a scene that he had written where Alice was falling down through this room with all the clocks, and he had do clocks of every possible kind. So then I had the idea. I said, you remember the old Felix the Cat clock, that the eyes would go back and forth in the tail? I said, I'm going to do one of those. But I did it to look more like a Cheshire Cat. And then when it got back to Pat was looking at it, Pat's like, oh man, I got to write some dialogue for that because that would be cool. So then he goes in and adds, it's the one clock that speaks as she's going down. And it's that unison and that energy between creatives coming from two disciplines, writing and art. And the best comics are a perfect balance and marriage of the artist and the writer.
Absolutely.
If you go too visual, you can have the Mona Lisa of comics, but then reading it, it's just kind of like, or vice versa.
What he was saying earlier with the Silver Age being too wordy, and even though there are some phenomenal artists that Neil Adams and those guys.
Oh, Neil Adams is great.
It was very wordy, but then you look at some of the people, honestly, that were part of the school of things that McFarlane started. You look at guys like Lee Field. You look at guys like Savage Dragon.
Eric Larson.
Eric Larson. And those guys took
Sean
things
is going to kill you.
when he, not his, because that's one of Sean's favorite things.
Rightly so. His stuff is great.
When he was writing things like when he was writing Spider-Man and drawing Spider-Man, his stuff was a little bit more too visual. It needed more work. And so I think that, what I'm saying is you have to find that middle ground where, number one, the writer has to realize that they're not writing to the audience. They're writing to the artist. And when they develop their scripts, they have to focus that you're writing for that artist. And then you have to understand that the majority of your story is being told within those panels and trust your artist to be the actual storyteller.
Oh, yeah, you have to.
You're the conductor, the artist is the symphony.
Well, exactly. I mean, the writer sets the framework and the dialogue and the interaction and motivation between the characters. The artist ends up taking on the role. And this is what really drew me to comics in the first place. because doing visual art, just art for art's sake, and drawing, working just on the visual aspect of it, that's one thing. But when you go into comics, you can't just be a good artist. You have to be a good artist. You have to be a graphic designer because of the panel layouts. Because you got to find out, not just draw that one panel, but how the panel relates to the other panels on the page, and actually that page as a whole relates to the page next to it. All right. Then the artist also has to be a set designer, a costumer. You've got to be a historical fact checker. The whole.
You have to have an understanding of anatomy.
Yeah, well, basically, you're a whole movie production set crew coming into one person and doing it basically with a gun to your head, the deadline,
right?
and you're like, oh, come on.
Page a day, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because it's like, I'm proud of just about every page I've ever done, but my first professional page for Zenoscope is the first issue of Down the Rabbit Hole. And I was doing it, and I psyched myself out because I was in there. This is Alice, and this is going to be, And I got in there, and I look back at that page to this day, and I just want to. And the art director's like, "No, it'll be fine. And I was like, "No, it's not going to be fine. I want to go back and redraw it." It was
I
just
have
terrible.
a theory that most comic book artists would never release a page if it wasn't for deadlines.
Oh,
because
yes.
you would keep
Yes.
tweaking them forever. I mean, every artist
Absolutely.
I've ever known,
Absolutely.
I just got a couple more tweaks. But if it wasn't for that deadline pushing,
Absolutely, and they can, and rightly so. I mean, I'll sit there and say, "Oh man, they're hammering me on this deadline or whatever, and it's got to be right and everything." But I get the fact. That's the deadline. It's got to get out, or it's going to be the greatest visual masterpiece that no one ever saw.
And if you miss too many deadlines, people drop the book because they don't.
They do. Yeah, they do. And you've got to kind of balance it. And, I tend to, just between my creative, having to be a perfectionist on certain things and, just life in general. Yeah, because it's like I could literally I could get up each morning at 7 o'clock in the morning and draw till like 1 o'clock in the morning, and still just be, skating by if I wanted to.
Right.
But then you've got stuff, I work at home, out of my studio. I got stuff coming in. I got my son coming in with things, talking about this, that, or the other.
Life doesn't stop.
Life does
It
not
does not.
stop.
It does not. Trust me,
We all know that, right?
Well, so we're right about 30 minutes.
Okay.
What do you have next coming down the pipeline, and what is next for you in the world of cosplay?
Oh.
And in making sure that he stays in line.
Yeah, keeping me straight, because that's a
That's
full-time job.
That's a full-time
Yeah,
job.
because that is my nickname, the International Hooligan. Gregbo Watson, International Hooligan.
And I'm the person who keeps up with Gregbo.
Yeah, she's the hooligan wrangler. But yeah, the last thing that I did in the studio that is going to be hitting the presses soon is I did the latest cover of Tales of Terror for Zenoscope, and it's got Karis Death, as some people know her. It's a story about the Bermuda Triangle. She's done it in a pinup style, sitting on the front cover holding up a spyglass and kind of like she's on vacation and just enjoying the view, Bermuda Triangle in a nice little sailor pinup outfit that's kind of torn and stuff. And, ships are sinking in the background and rain's coming in and waves are crashing. And, she's right at home in the she's right at home in the Bermuda Triangle.
Good. All kinds of things.
So from the Bermuda Triangle to Cosplay Land, what are you doing, Misty?
Yeah, well, our next convention is going to be coming weekend in
Oh yeah, Charleston.
Charleston.
Okay.
We've got Captain's Comics.
Captains, I love going to captains.
And
Good time.
yeah, I've got a couple of cosplays I'm currently working on. We don't know which one's going to come out first. That's usually I've got work in process all over my house. And then I'll be getting ready to be the cosplay director for Power Comic Con, which is the 1st of April.
Very cool.
So I'll be getting everybody together so we can coordinate and get that done.
Awesome. Well, and then we've got Camden, South Carolina, and that con, Misty's going to be there. My son Brett and the Legends are going to be there.
Nice.
So it's going to be like a big family. Every now and then we kind of like all meet at
That's
these
the dream
things.
world.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
nerd family dream.
Yeah, the nerd family dream.
I've got to get my better half on staff. He's an RN, so if I got to get him over here to jump in, that way he can be here too. A, to watch my wallet, and B, to We can.
Well, you can just bring your wallet right over to my table.
There-
I've got some
hey.
stuff, you know.
I did a good enough job of that myself.
Yes, you did.
Where can people find you at? Where can they find some? I know you don't work digitally. Most of you is pen and pencil.
Correct.
I'd like to if some of our listeners want to buy some of your stuff, where can
Absolutely.
they reach out and find?
Well, they
find
can
you?
go. Basically, you type my name into Google. Type Gregbo into Google, and I'll pop up. You know, follow me on your your social network of choice. But primarily, I post on Facebook a lot. You know, it's just facebook.com/Gregbo. And then I do Instagram, Gregbo. Twitter's Wicked Gregbo, and I have Gregbo.com. But what's funny is I was like the first person in the state of South Carolina to do websites. This is back in the day, okay? First person. I mean, so I know it's a odd story, but the reason I did it is to promote my comics and stuff I was doing at the time. I mean, this is back in the 90s. And then I realized, hey, I'm the only guy around here who can do websites. So I started doing websites and stuff. Well, because I've been crazy not to. This is a big bubble and stuff. But, so anyway, but nowadays I'm drawing so much. And like I said, by the time I get back from this con, this is a drive. And by the time I get back to this con, it's going to be late Monday night. And then I'm going to have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we're leaving Friday to go to Charleston. Yeah. So trying to get my work done and everything else, I'm going to draw before I sit down and mess with my website. So if you go to Gregbo.com and see a WordPress JavaScript error, you will know why. Go to Facebook, but I'm about to get that fixed. But.
I was wondering if you're going to say that you still have the 8-bit music going on.
Yeah, guys, I can't thank you enough for sitting down and talking to you. I know you guys are busy, but to take your time out of your busy day to let us do this is amazing. We really appreciate it. So, and we'll get in touch with you whenever we're going to put this episode out.
Awesome.
And we'll
Please let me know.
And look forward to it. And so, man, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Glad to.
And I love my Black Panther sketch cover that I like.
Oh man, I love doing it, man. I hope you enjoy it.
Well, all right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. All right, bye bye.
Southern Fried Geekery.
Well, I thought.
I know.
He gonna learn you some things about some comics.
No, he wasn't wrong because he was talking WCW's NWO era, the Monday Night Wars.
Big
era.
Daddy Diesel and Razor Ramon were way before that. They'd already become Scott Hall and Kevin Nash by the time they went through that stuff.
You're right. Actually, so you're talking. Yeah, you did say. Man, you did say. You say Diesel. I remember him as Kevin Nash.
No, Big Daddy Diesel, man.
No, you're not wrong. Yeah, Razor Ramon. Yeah, that was pre-attitude era. You're not wrong at all. I apologize. Not on the air.
Confirmed.
You're recorded.
Damn it.
All right. Well, guys, we really hope you enjoyed that interview with Gregbo. What a fascinating and just nice guy. And, it's always nice to talk to somebody whose accent's right up there with mine. So, me and Gregbo, we have that relationship. We do this voice thing that goes on because we're from the South. So, but no.
Bring the Southern to the Southern Fried Geekery.
Oh, God. Gregbo, we're really glad that you took the time to talk with us. I cannot wait to get more art from you. I was fascinated by your stories and your beautiful and talented abilities. We wish your son the best of luck in his professional wrestling career. I've actually got to look him up a little bit and broaden my horizons some. Well, hey, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
You like things that aren't comics, right?
Yes.
You like mangas?
I like a lot of stuffs.
But do you like mangas?
Yes.
Do you like animes?
Yeah.
Why don't you and Sean tell me about some mangas and some animes?
Well, since Sean wasn't here last time and I got to give my whole 10-minute spiel about it, I'm going to toss it over to Sean so he can tell you his...
Well, thank you, sir, because, I was sad to miss our debut of our anime and manga section.
So was
but I'm going to keep this brief because as I was going over the idea of what I'm going to talk about for my introduction about anime, I realized I've been watching anime as knowing what anime is for 25 years.
Just because you're old as fuck.
I'm old as fuck. Because you're old. Going to try to keep this brief when we have so much allotted time. My anime venture into anime, of course, as a kid, I watched Voltron, Speed Racer, but you didn't really know that was just another Saturday morning cartoon. So, but around 1993, on TBS aired a special movie. And they called it a special Japanimation. Special. Of a classic called Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah.
It was completely uncensored except the nudity. But they had so I'm watching a cartoon and they said this is a cartoon for an older audience. I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch this. Let's see what that's all. Because I'd already kind of heard of anime at this point. Of course, everyone's called it Japanimation in the early 90s because we're terrible. And, it blew my mind. Just the violence, the maturity of the story, the artwork. It was amazing. I saw it, I was like, okay, I need to look more into this. Roughly around that time, Sci-Fi Channel on Sundays for about 4-hour block, maybe a 6-hour block, ran anime. And this just blew my doors wide open. They showed Akira. They showed one of my favorite old school series called Record of Lodoss War, which is just Dungeons and Dragons, the anime. They had Dominion Tank Police. They had a few others that I'm just going to complete blank, but it was just blocks of anime. Watching that, I was like, okay, I'm recording them on a VHS. I'm showing them to everyone I can. No one's ever heard of this stuff. And then my biggest claim to fame, at least for my high school, I was watching UPN on a Sunday morning at a show that when I went to school and asked if anyone had heard of this show, no one did. A little show called Dragon Ball Z.
What's Dragon Ball Z?
Yes. I mean, if you can actually believe that, if you know what Dragon Ball Z is now. No one had heard of that.
Isn't that one show where they take like 19 episodes to have a fist fight?
It's 19 episodes to charge up the punch of that fist fight.
Okay.
Shut up, Caleb. This isn't the Attitude Era.
I was right about that.
He was. All right. Yes, to recant. Quit interrupting our segment.
It was on UPN?
It was on UPN on Sunday mornings. It went from the beginning of Z when Raditz showed up all the way until Nappa and Vegeta land, and then it went on loop.
Was that before Toonami?
Yes.
Oh.
It was. That's why I said no one had heard of it, because it was on Sunday mornings on UPN.
Okay.
So before, which you mentioned Toonami, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
But even before then, my Hastings, for those of us in this area of Arkansas and the Sherwood, Jacksonville area, you know Hastings was the shit back in the day, had a VHS section of Japanimation on a little plaque. And back then, these are just cartoons.
Yep.
They're old computers.
They're for kids.
They don't card someone who looked on the back of an anime box that said violence, blood, nudity. And I'm like, yep, I'm checking this out. And I have that VHS when they sold out all their things. I found
Nice.
it. Called Kabuto, the Golden-Eyed Beast. Short little 45-minute ninja anime. Just awesome stuff. And so I was renting videos from there. But then, of course, Toonami happened, and we all know from there. I don't have to dive into everything from Trigun to Tenchi Muyo and all that. So, being that I rented a lot, that I watched a lot, I love a variety of anime. And we'll eventually get into all of my favorites over the years. But yeah, that's how I dived in from a young little 13-year-old to my 38-year-old self watching anime.
Yeah. So when you were 13, is that about the time you said you saw Vampire Hunter D?
Yeah, roughly around then.
13 was about the time I started hunting the D as well.
Hey-o!
And that was Vampire Hunter D was based off of light novels, right?
Yes.
Like they didn't have a manga or anything. It started.
No,
that's actually something that I don't think we got into because like last episode I didn't even mention.
Right.
Because you've got a lot of anime that's based off of manga. Well, another thing that Japan is really big in, how we get novels and they make movies and stuff off of them. Anime does light novels, and they'll do anime series for them.
It's true. Now, granted, Vampire Hunter D, though, I don't think it was actually considered a light novel. And I don't really know what the different categorization is.
Yeah.
They were books. I actually had started printing them back in the few years back. They printed
I remember
them up.
seeing a lot of them at Books A Million.
I believe I should still have the first one somewhere. But it was just a Japanese novel.
Mm-hmm.
And then with cover artwork by the famous Yoshitaka Amano of Final Fantasy fame. Mm-hmm. So I love that. Oh, yeah. And then they used his character designs for the animation of the movie. Mm-hmm. So I think it was originally light novel. I can't tell you the difference, to be honest. I'm a bad fan. I know. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I don't really think there is a big difference.
But they do call them light novel.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, there's not every anime, and there's animes that were just complete original works of art. They were just, it was anime first and sometimes a manga even second.
Right.
So, yeah, but that was a very brief, and there were many, many anime I could get into, but we'll get into that kind of later, some of our favorites that we're going to talk about. But I just want, since I missed a big introductory one, I'm going to kind of gush for a little while about it. Anime has been a major part of my life. Inspirational from just art to viewings, opening my mind to different genres of what I like. Because I watch if it's anime is well done, well drawn, well acted, I watch it. From action to sci-fi to romantic comedies to drama. As long as it's well done, I've watched it. There's a lot of people out there who only want to watch the Dragon Ball Z, the fighting type stuff. I love it all. And anime has brought me friends. And that's probably the biggest thing was hey, I know Annie is boring. It's anime talk. You're not used to this. Your dog's falling asleep, Caleb.
That's all she ever does.
But it's been a big part of my life of introducing me to friends. I mean, I made a friend in high school because he had heard of one called Ninja Scroll, which I completely tricked my parents into buying me a very mature rated anime because they didn't know. Hey, blood, guts, ninjas, and tits. I mean, it's a great movie.
How can you go wrong?
But one of the big ones I wanted to bring up was actually One Piece. I know Jerry had talked about One Piece, and we're going to definitely get into me and Jerry's history of that show, especially together, because it is him along. I have a couple other friends. Shout out to Jumbo Thick and Jumbo Smooth. Matt and Anthony, I became friends because I was hanging out at GameStop and somebody mentioned One Piece and it was on. And same with Jerry. When I came into Kapow Comics and stumbled upon his employment there.
Yeah,
we started talking One Piece, man. I haven't gotten rid of his ass since.
Yay!
But it's been important. It's definitely what bonded us from watching it. Going back and me actually watching the anime because I've read most of the manga to get caught up quickly. To our first cosplays. Yeah. I mean, right? That was your first cosplay as well?
Beppo and Law.
Yeah, Beppo and Law. Our first cosplays was a duo, the team of Beppo and Law. So, I mean, yeah, it's been a major part of my life, and it's affected it in positive ways all around.
Right on.
I like to think this segment will go even into just anime and manga culture as well. I mean, I fully intend to talk about cosplay.
Oh, for sure.
About just the video games and everything. Like, it's going to be all encompassing Japan.
Yeah, and then we'll have like 10 whole episodes just talking about our Japan trip.
Well, of course we're going to do that.
When are we talking about tentacle porn?
Well, that's actually spoilers the next episode.
Oh, shit.
I mean, if you
Super
want
hentai spectacular.
If you want me to get into my embarrassing hentai story, we could totally roll on that for the next, at least 10 or 15 minutes.
So we read some comics this week.
That's what
we did read some comics this week.
We did.
We absolutely did. Well,
we did? We did?
I did read comics. I just didn't read new comics. I left Arkansas about 4 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. Wednesday, for those of you who don't know, is New Comic Book Day. That's when comic books debut. And unfortunately, Kapow Comics, who for the most part is halfway decent, I could not get them to open up at 3 o'clock for me in the morning. Matt decided to be lazy. He didn't want to get up at 2. So I couldn't get my comic fixed. And I am loyal to that store. I have my pull box there. I was not near a actual comic book store in Tampa, so I could not go pick up new books. And I was driving for the most part, so I didn't have time to buy them online. So I did not actually get to sit down and read a new comic. I picked them up today, and I haven't had a chance to do that yet. If I had have picked up a new comic and read it, it would have been Gideon Falls by Mr. Jeff Lemire, Mr. Andreas Sorrento, and Dave Stewart. I haven't had a chance to read this yet, but I have flipped through it. I read the first 4 pages, and there's 900 things I need to think about. I was going to try to binge read it real quick before the show, and that was stupid. You can't do that with that book. There's way too much going on.
And I love the whole idea of it. Okay, so my only experience with this book has been Craig telling me, you need to get on this book. But that team on it has done a really excellent run on Green Arrow. I think it was, what was the name of that one that he did?
Green Arrow?
No, I know it was Green Arrow, but I cannot remember.
The Greenest Arrow?
Yes, actually.
Green Arrow and the Arrowheads.
So anyway, there was they also did a really good run on Old Man Logan. That was really good. Yep. And you really can't beat that team. And with them working on an independent book like this, it's just gonna be great.
I can't wait to read it.
They didn't have it in stock whenever I went there last Wednesday, and I keep forgetting to have them out in my box. So it's something I'm gonna have to pick up this week. But it's kind of funny that you mentioned Jeff Lemire because he wrote the book that I picked this week.
He did.
And mine is actually coming out of the pages of Black Hammer. And if you don't know anything about Black Hammer, it's Jeff Lemire writing a superhero book. But kind of think of it sort of Watchmen-esque.
A little bit.
It starts off where they have superheroes, early on in the world. There's more superpowers in it.
It's Watchmen-esque if you think of it in terms of these Golden Age style superheroes.
Yeah.
In a modern setting, not Watchmen-esque in the political vein or Watchmen-esque in the writing, but they take these golden tropes that
the same way they basically like how Watchmen did with taking off kind kind of stealing from Marvel and DC superheroes and kind of combining them.
Mm-hmm.
They did a lot of that in Black Hammer. I could go on and on about Black Hammer and why it's a great book and why you should read it. They actually just wrapped up a side story called Sherlock Frankenstein that was 4-issue miniseries, and it was really good. I actually just got caught up in that today. Well, when they ended that, they announced that they were going to do this new one called Dr. Star and the Kingdom of Lost Tomorrow, and it's Jeff Lemire and Max Fiumara and Dave Stewart and Nate Picos, and it was a really really good story. Like, I'm assuming, and I was trying to think of this earlier, but the Black Hammer comic, is it present day? Are we assuming that it's 2018, or is it like 1990, 1980? Because I know they jump around a lot, because whenever I was reading Sherlock Frankenstein, I think a lot of the past stuff in it, and when the event happened, I believe was either 60s or 70s. But this book, a lot of their flashbacks in it take place in the 40s.
It feels modern-esque.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever stamp a date on it. It could very well be in the early 90s, the mid-80s. But because it takes place, again, spoilers for those of you who haven't maybe read this, but should. It's prescribed. It takes place in a pocket universe, Black Hammer does.
Yes.
So you don't ever, at least to my knowledge, it most of it takes place on a small town, in a farm. There's a very, very, very rural country element to it.
Yeah.
It's just, like I said, it's modern-esque. But I don't know that it has an actual timestamp. It very well may. I read it from month to month, and that leaves a lot of time to forget things, like a little date up in the corner.
Right.
If it has, I don't remember it.
Oh, and it was Dean Ormston and Dave Stewart doing the art on that book.
On Black Hammer, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, where this book picks up, it's this old man, and he's going to an observatory, and it looks like he's either inner monologuing or writing a letter. He apparently used to be this superhero named Dr. Star. Come to find out, he was really poor, and he had a theoretical science talking about para-radiation, and the government ends up finding out about it. And the story basically goes, they start funding his research. He ends up making discoveries and breakthroughs, ends up using those discoveries and breakthroughs to become a superhero. And it just kind of goes through his little origin and how he kind of was more focused on his research and being a superhero than really paying attention to his wife and kid that he had at home. Like, even whenever he first powered up this staff that he created, it was his son's first birthday.
Yeah.
So he gains this power. He ends up joining the superheroes of that time in 1942 to go off the war and fight against the Nazis and everything. And while it's telling this story of how he kind of came to be as a superhero, it keeps flashing back to his current self, and he's kind of old and still narrating to this person. And you get to this point where he goes to a hospital and he's asking about the cancer ward, and showing like a flash of like his battles, and then him being in this hospital, and then you find out that his son has cancer. So I guess the idea of what it is he's kind of spent his entire life, chasing these sciences and all these adventures and stuff, and not really paying attention to his family and everything around him.
Craig always says this, and I wish he was here tonight, because it
this is actually what
said.
He was going to talk about.
That or Gideon Falls, either one I could see Craig talking about. Mm-hmm. Jeff Lemire writes the human condition better than anyone else writing in comics today.
Right.
There are very few, very, very few people who can mix humanity and modern everyday life into a world where you have a book like the Black Hammer verse, and you have Dr. Star, or Gideon Falls, or Moon Knight, or Green Arrow, and Jeff Lemire is able to weave that in there in such a sense of craftsmanship that is just phenomenal. You go read this man's books, read everything he writes.
If you want a really good independent one by him that really explains the human condition, Essex County.
I was going to say Underwater Welder.
Underwater Welder is really good, but Essex County, it's essentially real life story. It's the county in Canada around where he grew up in, and it just kind of tells this different stories through different points of time and different people's points of view. And man, I was in tears by the end of it. And it's all just one big thing. I don't think he even did single issues. I think it was original graphic novel.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I haven't had a chance to crack Dr. Start yet, but how's the art?
The art is really it's interesting, but it really works well for the series. The colors are wonderful.
They are.
Yeah, I mean it's Dave Stewart doing the colors, so you can't really go wrong. And he does a really good job of whenever it's the present day story, since it's kind of like old and grimy, he kind of puts sort of a pale pastel on it. But whenever you're talking about like the nowadays, it's very vibrant. And it's a lot more like your bright oranges and pinks and everything. And then whenever he's inventing and even goes into space, like you get some really nice pictures of everything that's happening, and all the effects look really great on it. And it matches really well with the artist that's on Black Hammer as well.
Is that Golden Gate?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
this was whenever this was in 1942. Whenever he first decided, when they were deciding on if they were going to fight the Nazis or not, and so it's before the event and everything. I think this is actually like 20, like his past stuff is like 20 or 30 years before the event happened.
Yeah.
Because that's whenever he ended up joining the superheroes. But it was a really, really good story, really touching, and I'm assuming. Since Charlotte Frankenstein went 4 issues, this will probably go 4 issues as well.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, definitely recommend picking it up. Just Jeff Lemire alone is just amazing, and I would read anything that he puts out.
And you should. You absolutely should.
I read a book this week as well.
Was it a book with words?
It was.
Was it a book with pictures?
Maybe.
Ooh.
We'll find out if you just stay tuned. Savage Dragon, no. It did come out this week, but sadly not shocking enough to take the time.
Aww.
Actually, and because I read a new book that I want to bring some attention to, even though, I mean, the first name I'm about to list, I mean, little known writer, he's done a few things.
Yeah.
Robert Kirkman, you may have heard of some of his work. Maybe like a little thing called The Walking Dead or Invincible.
Can I stop you real quick? Only because you mentioned Savage Dragon.
Yes.
Have you read this week's Savage Dragon?
I did.
There was something, I heard a rumor.
Oh.
I heard a rumor about this.
We still get Savage Dragon talk. Even
Yeah, yep. I just want to do this just for you. So, Savage Dragon's girlfriend.
Yes.
There was a drawing of her.
She was very happy to see him.
It's drippingly so.
Drippingly so.
What was her T-shirt? I want to test your attention to detail.
You're going to get me after a long, hard day, and I read that a week ago almost.
She had a bare naked ladies T-shirt on.
You're right.
Yep.
Yes.
That's a rumor that I heard.
Yes. Bare naked ladies.
Now, back to Robert Kirkman.
Back to who?
Well, you can't bring up the dripping without pointing out the fact that shortly after that, when Dragon had to go handle a problem, she tried to stop him by leaping literally onto his face, Hurricane Rana style. But he had to go fight crime.
Decisions.
So anyway, back to your actual book at this point.
Yes. Meanwhile, back to Oblivion Song. Written by Robert Kirkman, as I stated, a little-known writer known for The Walking Dead and Invincible, as well as I'm sure many other projects.
Outcast.
As
well.
Yep. Yeah. Fantastic writer. Artist is one I'm probably going to fight, but he'd have to come all the way from Italy to come fight me if I missing his name. But the challenge is still thrown out there. Mr. Lorenzo Del Felici.
Actually, if he mispronounced your name and you want to fight him, send us plane tickets. We'll come to you.
Yeah, if that's easier for you. Absolutely.
Yeah, if anybody if you're not within walking distance and you need to fight Sean because we mispronounced your name, we will gladly come to you. Just fun. Send us a plane ticket.
That's all we need. That's it. He's an Italian artist, known for a couple books called The Draca and Dylan Dog. Very good artwork in there. It's a unique style. It's not something you don't see. It's a detailed, almost cartoon style.
Yeah,
like, I dig that. And the color, he's just labeled as an artist, so I'm assuming he does both pencil and inks. And a really good colorist, Annalisa Leone, who has done a book called Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus, which that title sounds familiar.
It really does.
Yeah, but I'm not familiar. But she's also done character designs for random stuff, a whole bunch of little stuff. And she even did the Monsters University graphic novel for Pixar.
Okay.
Yeah. And side note, while just looking up her info, she's actually in a relationship with Dale Felici. Or Dave Felici.
There's a few power couples.
Yeah. Apparently they're an Italian artist power couple going right now.
That's a thing. So you mentioned that he's only listed as the artist. That makes me think, and for me, I'm going to say unfortunately.
Because there's like no inker, unless it's digital.
That's what I was going to say. That makes me, unfortunately, for collectors out there, that makes me think that this was probably done digitally, which means that there may or may not be any original art for this book out there.
Which is a shame, because the artwork is very unique. Good.
He very well could be somebody who inks himself. But most of the time when it just says ink artist, it's somebody who either draws and inks himself, or they do things digitally, and you don't need an inker when you do that.
No, that's fair.
Which fucks up the OA game.
But getting to the meat of the story. And this is Kirkman. It feels like we're like, even with just the first issue, we're going to have a ton more world building to explain things a little more. Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of giving a gist, because even I can't say, even after reading one time, I fully understand what's going on in the world, and that's probably intentional.
Yeah.
But basically there was a event in this world called the Transference, where a lot of people disappeared. So apparently after time, like it was a lot of compared to the biblical rapture, people just disappearing out of nowhere. Eventually it seems like some scientists had figured out that people were in an alternate dimension. And there's been an organization that has been going in there and getting people back. Mm-hmm. And that brings us to our main character, Nathan Cole. He goes in there using devices where he tranks them and it warps them back into the thing.
That opening really tripped me up.
Oh yeah, he's just in there, and there are giant. What's the Rick and Morty thing they call them? Cronenberg monsters. If you know David Cronenberg movies.
We're canceling the show. You mentioned Rick and Morty.
Wubba lubba dub dub, bud.
I don't.
That's what the show's about now.
I don't understand comedy.
It's happening, but basically, yeah, Cronenberg-esque. Just think of like David Cronenberg films. Think of John Carpenter's The Thing. These are just grotesque monsters, and there are people who just disappeared in this event that are there now, and now they're going back, but they're horribly underfunded now because he's supposed to have like a belt that's supposed to bring him there and back. It malfunctioned while he was there, and he had to trank himself, and that's apparently not a fun ride back going that way. They get into a little bit of like you find out they mentioned like his brother, and apparently that's a big motivator that he wants to find his brother was one of the people in the transference. Cool little thing. They had a great scene. They have a memorial to everyone who's been gone. And these are like 10 years, I think, roughly, that they've been gone. And there's some asshole on a pulpit just talking about they're all sinners. They've all gone to hell. And Nathan's just kind of walking casually behind him with a hammer and a chisel going to one of the names of the people he rescued and just knocking them off the memorial. Because they're coming back.
And they do that nice scene of them... focusing out of it, and it shows quite a few.
Yeah, that they brought a lot of people back, and gets into a little bit argument with the funding company about how they don't think it's worth it, and accusing him basically of like, you're only doing this for your brother, and so they kind of dropped that at the end, and he ends up doing it anyway, trying to go back in, and we see just the end page is his brother's name is Ed. That's all they kind of mentioned it. Ed, and you see a group of people look like they've been surviving there for a while. And one of them mentioned a guy called Ed. And he doesn't know it's Nathan. And he's like, we got to figure out what the hell these people are doing to our people.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a conflict within the alternate dimension with monsters and survivors. I can't wait to read more. Yeah. It was a book, literally, it was thrown in my box, I'm sure because it's a first image issue.
Yeah.
And Robert Kirkman. And I ain't going to lie, flipped through it, I was like... It's not grabbing me. The artwork is good now. I've gotten used to it, but it's not what you typically see in a Western comic.
At first too.
But I was like, you know what though? I have a podcast. I need to at least try to expand beyond Savage Dragon. Because contrary to my popular belief, there is more than Savage Dragon out there.
Well, there's Batman.
There is Batman. I do gush on Batman a lot.
So it's funny to me, and the reason I laughed is you were talking about the guy out on the street corner. We were driving back from Tampa.
Oh, Lord.
This past Sunday. deep in the heart of Mississippi.
Woo!
And we pulled over for gas. And I'll be goddamned if it wasn't right in the middle of some corner preachers with signs. Hellfire, brimstone, just screaming through a megaphone. So, yeah. That was funny to me. And it's funny that you said that.
Well,
so.
yeah. I mean, and that's what it was. It's like they're just people out there being assholes for their own agenda, condemning these people who just got warped to a horror alien dimension.
There was
But of course, it's their own agenda of getting what they need, of claiming it's, is they're sinners. They had to be sinners that disappeared.
and they're accusing him of bringing them back from their fate from hell.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I think it's going to become a very interesting world, both worlds. Mm-hmm. It's going to be very interesting to see where he goes with this. I can't wait to read more.
It really messed me up at the beginning of it because, like, he's chasing these two people, and then all of a sudden this monster pops up, and he hits one of them, and then they, like, electrify, and then they're not there. And you're like, what the fuck just happened to them?
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, this monster shows up, and it goes to grab one of them, and he shoots the other person. And then it's just like, what the fuck did he just do?
Right.
And then you find out that he was just teleporting them out.
Yeah, like I said, and seeing it especially, like, because I already as we do, we spoil the books.
Yeah.
But like that opening where you don't have a clue what the hell's going on, you are confused. And I'd be honest, at first I was like, what the fuck?
Yep.
But I still read Walking Dead. I'm a big fan of Kirkman. Mm-hmm. So like I had faith in him. That's why I picked it up. And I'm glad I did. It's a fantastic book.
Yeah. I can't wait to read it. I got it as well. So that's definitely going to be a thing I'm pouring into. I'm actually not nearly as big of a Robert Kirkman fan as a lot of other people are. I know. Tisk, tisk.
If you want to fight Caleb with Robert Kirkman, you have to catch him on the street because you can't come on our podcast.
All right. Yeah, man. Like I never really got into the Robert Kirkman thing. I've never been a voracious reader of The Walking Dead.
Right.
I like him okay. I actually really liked the stuff that he did for Marvel when it was the Marvel 2099 stuff. He actually wrote a series of one-shots that were based off the 2099 stuff that were really, really good. Other than that, it's just not my wheelhouse.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
So, as I mentioned a couple of times, I did not read any new comics for this week, which, slapped my hand. Woe is me. It just didn't work out. Actually slapped my hand. But one thing that is cool about A, having a collection to pull from, and B, having what should be a 14-hour drive that turns into an 18-hour drive because people got to take potty breaks. I actually was able to take a book that I have been dying to read with me to Florida. And I got to read it on the way there and on the way back. And that book is none other than My Favorite Things is Monsters.
I thought you were picking it up to give it to me.
Once I read it, once I finish it, I've got just a little bit left. I would love it if you borrowed this and read it. I would love it if you did that and didn't fuck it up and didn't bring it and brought it back.
Sir.
I wasn't going to bring it back, but okay.
If you can read the fine print and then sign the waiver, then you can take it away from my house. No, this book is both written and drawn by Emil Farris. And so a little bit of history about Miss Farris. Miss Farris was a writer. Emil Farris was a writer before she ever got into doing graphic novels or comics. This was actually her first comic, her first sequential art that she ever published or produced. But she was a writer beforehand. She contracted West Nile virus, which is a big thing all over the world. Mosquitoes kill more people through things like West Nile and malaria than war, guns, drugs, anything else. She contracted this disease, and it crippled her. It basically made her lose motor control in her hands, in most of her body. And fortunately, she recovered. She had to reteach herself how to draw. And so I believe, as the story goes, she did so ambidextrously, which is impressive as hell. It's even more so impressive when you look at the art that's in My Favorite Thing is Monsters. She drew this book mostly by ballpoint pen. The entire thing is made to look like a student's notebook, a very talented student's notebook. It's all done on paper with lines. It looks like photocopied notebook paper. Mm-hmm. Wow. It is done in a lot of colors, but it's essentially, if you're fans of old magazines like Creepy and Eerie, if you were one of those kids in high school like I was that doodled while you were supposed to be learning things, and you drew things like monsters, like vampires, love scenes, band things, if you were into Iron Maiden and you loved the covers of that, then this book is for you. It is stunning. The artwork is stunning, and like I said, more so because you know that she retaught herself to draw to make this book. If a book can win, I don't know that a graphic novel or sequential art or sequential literature has ever won a Nobel Prize, which there are Nobel Prize for literature. This book should definitely be nominated. I will not be surprised if it takes home any number of Eisner Awards or anything else, because the story is as beautiful as the art is. The story follows a young girl named Karen Reyes. She is you'll actually get into this. She is a biracial young girl. She is Latina and white. She is growing up in Chicago. Yeah, she is obsessed with monsters. Her favorite things are, in fact, monsters. And she fancies herself a detective. So she goes through this book, and she doesn't exactly lead a glamorous life. She lives in an apartment complex with her single mother. Her brother is a tattoo artist / local, almost a gangster. Not really a gangster, but kind of a gangster. The neighborhood knows him. He's got his problems, as does everyone else in the neighborhood. Karen's upstairs neighbor, which is an older woman who is a Jewish immigrant to the United States. She's a survivor of the Holocaust. She's murdered. And this is someone who, although she was crazy, Karen, the main character, dearly loved. She really felt a kinship with this woman. So Karen takes on the role as detective, a young girl, to find out who or what happened to her upstairs neighbor. The police claimed it was a suicide, but it's ridiculous that it could be one because the woman died of a gunshot wound. The doors were locked from the inside, and the cops claimed it was a suicide, even though she was killed in her living room and she was found in her bed by her husband. So there's some odd things going on. I'm not going to try to walk you through the narrative of this book because it's way too big to cover in one segment of one episode. But essentially, the bullet points: young girl obsessed with monsters. She's a biracial girl. It deals with being impoverished Latina in a mostly white neighborhood, or in a mostly poor white neighborhood in Chicago. It deals with issues of her sexuality because she realizes at a very young age that she is attracted sexually to her friend, who is also a female, who in turn turns on her. It deals with the mystery of murder and what happened. It gets into the backstory of the woman who survived the Holocaust, who was in fact killed upstairs, who she was a prostitute. She was sold into prostitution at a young age by her mother. She was being a prostitute is what actually made her survive the Holocaust.
So it's a happy feel-good tale.
Well, no. So it's not. It's not that, but it's also not depressing. It is fascinating. It is a fascinating glimpse into humanity on several different levels.
It's awesome.
I cannot recommend this book enough. This is the best thing I've read in years. In years, the best thing I've read in years.
You read a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a high praise.
I'm pretty excited.
This is not just a book of the year. This might be the book of my lifetime.
Wow. Awesome.
Because everything about it is literary. I was having a conversation with my professor on the way down to Tampa, and he's kind of a literary snob. He doesn't like genre fiction. If it's got elves, he's not interested in reading it. If it's not literary fiction, if it's not a case study in character, he really doesn't give a fuck. Which, granted, that's his career, so, and I understand it. I also enjoy those things, but I also enjoy comics and stuff. And I was telling him the timeline of this, and he's like, I may have to order this. Like, you may have just sold me on a comic book, and that's not something that he cares about, because that's what it is. This is high class writing.
Right.
This is absolutely what it is, and again, I can't undersell the art. There are case studies in geography when they look at landscapes There is case studies in archaeology where she draws places in Chicago that I've seen, and detail is stunning. Like these places that these arches with this intricate work on them look amazing. She gets into mythology. She gets into race. She gets into class. She delves into the mind of a little girl who is a misfit, who does not have a place in the world, whose mother, spoiler warning, gets cancer in the midst of all of this, whose brother is known that her brother will fucking kill you if you cross his family. Right. He's not the best person in the world, but he's her brother. And you get into these very human emotions. And back to what we were talking about earlier, as Craig likes to say, Jeff Lemire writes the human condition in comics. I want to modify that. Jeff Lemire writes the best human condition in ongoing serial comics. Emil Farrell might write the best of the human condition in anything that has paper. Pick this book up. Order it from the evil empire that is Amazon. Go to Barnes & Noble. Go to your local comic book shop first. Pick it up from them. Order this book. It is a thick book. It is daunting. But it's also just if you can see the size of this book and you're like, no way I'll ever have time to read this. This is printed on very thick, hearty paper. So part of the reason the book is the size that it is because this is not done on newsprint. It's not done on thin paper. It's done on very, very thick, quality paper. And so that gives a lot of its size, but it is in fact an extensive read. This is not something that, unless you are a speed reader, you're going to sit down and read in the afternoon. If you have the time, you can probably kill it in a weekend. It's I don't think there has a page count, but I'm guessing over 200 pages of just exquisitely drawn, exquisitely written story. And you should buy it. I want to say that $39.99 is what it is. So it's going to cost you $40 without tax when you order it. If you go to your local comic book shop, if you're in, say, Central Arkansas, and you have a pull list with Kapow, a lot of times Matt does discounts for repeat customers or customers who have pull boxes. So you can go there and he will give you a discounted price that at the very least will kill the sales tax.
Or customers that will mention our podcast.
Or customers that will mention our podcast. He doesn't know that, but that's what's happening. So, yeah, my favorite thing is Monsters, Emil Farris. The highest praise I can possibly give this. I'm going to tag her in this when we put up the episode because I want her to know how much I loved her books. But this is one of those situations I want to reach out to somebody who's better than me. Miss Farris, if you're listening to this podcast, please, please, please contact Miss Wendy Freeman from the Double Page Spread podcast, who is she does some of the best interviews from geek culture people. She reaches out, and all her podcast is interviews. The entire thing is just, she sits down with creators, with movie buffs, with people who make movies, with people who write comics, people who do anything and everything in geek culture. Fascinating interviews. Contact Miss Wendy Freeman and please go on the Double Page Spread podcast. I would be fascinated to listen to what you have to say and to listen to what Miss Freeman can get you to say, can pull out of you, because she does world-class interviews and it's worth listening to. And quite frankly, as just a fanboy, I would study that interview. I would listen to it multiple times, as I will read this multiple times. So that's my book of the week.
Awesome. Wow.
So sorry if I rambled on a little too long, but it's just, man, this book touched your soul. Like this, it really does. I love creative fiction in this genre. You know, talking about books that I've read in the past, Adrian and the Tree of Secrets, countless other books that there's no capes and tights. There's no any of that stuff. With this, there actually is a little bit of that, because you get this monster-esque. Everything is done through the lens of a childlike understanding of monsters. So go get it, man.
Right on.
Like be a better person and read this book. Fascinating books all the way around. I'm sad Craig's not here.
Yeah.
Because I would love to hear what Craig has to say about everything.
Of course. We miss him.
We do. But he is in fact not. But you know where he will be?
Where will he be?
On this podcast next week. Yeah. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to have the band all together again next week. Recording at a decent hour of the day. where I don't have to stay up all night editing. But you know what the cool thing about recording in the evening time is?
What's that?
I don't feel guilty about drinking.
Yeah.
You know what is also going to be on next week's episode?
What's that?
More comics.
More comics.
Moa.
You mean
Moa.
there's more coming out?
Moare.
Are you saying there's more comics coming out that are ahead of us?
There are, and you know what we're going to do?
What are we going to do?
We're going to get ahead of ourselves.
What? Son of a bitch.
We are about to tell you about our fresh picks for the week. Each week on Southern Fried Geekery, we get ahead of ourselves. We look to the future a little bit, and we tell you about the books that are coming out on the upcoming New Comic Book Wednesday. Just as a suggestion. We may talk about these books, we may not.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just stuff that we know that we are getting, that we're just really excited as fans of the medium to read. So I'm going to bounce it back to you, Sean. What's your fresh pick for next week?
Well, it is a book series that I have high hopes for because I'm actually a huge New Mutants fan. And they have a brand new series, a mini-series. New Mutants Dead Souls #1 comes out on New Comic Book Day Wednesday. The writing is being done by Matthew Rosenberg, credited with Phoenix Resurrection. And artist is Adam Gorham and Michael Garland of Rocket. They've worked on Rocket.
Nice.
I haven't done too much of my homework on this team.
I mean, it's we're just looking, yeah.
Going off the cover, though. Regular cover is being done by Ryan Stegman, and it looks amazing. Just this little thumbnail I have for reference of what's coming.
Ryan Stegman's good, man. He's a high class artist,
and it is a new team under New Mutants, and not all who are regularly New Mutants. The team this time looks like it's going to be centered around magic. Will be in there, as well as Wolfsbane, my personal favorite New Mutant, Richter, Boom Boom, and Strong Guy.
Yeah,
who I know from X Factor in that '90s run. I don't
the
know
Peter
much
David stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's my favorite run of anything X, by the way.
And who was also on that team? Wolfsbane.
Yep.
But
you know who else was on that team?
Who else?
Multiple Man.
Who?
Jamie Madrox.
Who?
The man, the myth, the legend himself.
Little side note, just cause I've been mentioned. Last time you mentioned Jamie Madrox. You've heard of the group Twisted?
Yes.
One of the rappers' rap name is Jamie Madrox.
Really?
It's intentionally because he used to be called the Multiple Man. Just a little side note.
That's
He's
kind
a fan.
of badass.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But back to the New Mutants, who do not feature Jamie Madrox, the Multiple Man of Twisted fame or X Factor. The New Mutants are launching themselves headfirst in some of the creepiest corners of the Marvel Universe, going on missions no one else will. So it kind of feels like it's no longer the students. New Mutants are no longer a student. It's actually like a legitimized team. And admittedly, I'm probably showing my weakness as a fan here. I have read most, if not all, of the 80s to 90s run of New Mutants, but sadly have not read the kind of the later iterations, which I'm planning to rectify soon. So I don't know if that's kind of become a thing, because New Mutants always struck me as more like it was still the school, like the students is always kind of their gig. So this sounds like they're kind of actually being their own team, like their own, like they're not just students anymore. Especially with Strong Guy who's been around for like fucking ever.
Oh yeah,
and
Guido, man, that's Guido.
His name's Guido. Yeah. Yes, it is. But looking forward to that because like if they're talking about maybe tackling some of the horror aspects in the Marvel universe, and hopefully when they're saying like no one else will go to, maybe they're going back some old school.
Well, you know why they're doing this, why they're putting this out at this time.
Because that movie that sadly got delayed to next year.
Yeah, I heard about it.
Which I'm now getting reports about reshoots, which concerned me because they said it was like, unless it's like, I've been hearing multiple stories, but the one that makes me hopeful about reshoots was that trailer, which I don't know if I discussed on here, but you know, most trailers are not done by the director or the writers.
Right.
It's done by the marketing team. And apparently that trailer, extremely misleading if these stories are correct. While it is definitely going to have horror aspects, because obviously they're doing the Demon Bear arc, it's apparently not, that trailer really oversold that aspect, apparently. Which kind of makes me sad, because I'm a huge horror buff.
Great.
Yeah. And I'm just a huge horror movie fan in general. So, but I'm still hopeful. It's still Fox, so you can't get too much hope up. But they've hit a few right ones, so we'll see. But the comic book, I'm definitely looking forward to next week.
Bad ass. Well, Jerry, what's coming out next week that you want to read?
At first, I don't know, looking through, there wasn't too much that I was, that really popped out, but doing this podcast and everything has really made me look closer at a lot of independent number ones and stuff like that, which I would do at the comic book store when I worked there anyway. It's just now that I don't work there, they're not right in front of my face. So the book that caught my eye is Infidel, and it's a Image number one. And I'm going to butcher this name. If I get it wrong, just please contact me and tell me how to say it, because I'm very interested. You can fight Sean.
And what he means that if he mispronounces your name, come on the podcast and fight Jerry over it.
But it's the writer is Pornsack. Pickett Shote.
Pornsack Pickett Shote.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
You know what? Come on the podcast and we'll apologize.
Yeah.
There's brutalizer names and there's calling someone porn sack. Can I see?
I feel like that is
But I mean, he's probably not wrong either.
I deeply apologize for making a joke about your name, sir, but I feel like this is a fake name that was done for like a show like The League. Pornsack Pickett Shote.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
And we apologize for mocking your name. Not please
and
someone tell us the right way.
The artist is Jose Villarrubia. So I'm just going to read the synopsis of it, and then we can talk about it, because it's a very short synopsis. A haunted house story for the 21st century. Infidel follows an American Muslim woman and her multiracial neighbors who move into a building haunted by entities that feed off xenophobia.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Pornsack, what did you do?
Pornsack is the greatest name ever now. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah. So like the cover really caught my eye, and it sounds really interesting. Now, that being said, I was looking into anything else that he done, and I think this is his breakout. He's just been an editor up until now, and this is going to be one of the first comics that he's actually written.
Good for him.
Yeah, it's his comics writing debut. And writer, colorist, Jose. Let's see, what else did he work on? But yeah, it's looking really good. And it looks like Jose Villarrubia, this is going to be the first comic that he's done art on, as far as I could tell. But yeah, it's going to be a 5-issue miniseries, and
who's publishing it?
Definite Image Comics.
Image?
And it definitely looks like it's going to be pretty creepy. But
awesome.
I'm looking forward to it this week.
Well, wonderful. Well, I am going to talk about my fresh pick for this next week. You guys know how I'm into very, very conscientious themed comics. I'm into very adult oriented things. So there's a book coming out next week that I'm truly excited about. DuckTales Volume 4, Number 7 is coming out. There's always multiple stories in this book. Usually there's 2 or 3 different ones. It's written by Joe Caramagna, art by Antona. At least the main story. The art's by Antonello Dalina. There's going to be other people who work on this book as well. Those are just who I think are doing the main story. IDW puts this book out. One of my pet peeves, even if it's things that I don't care about reading, which is not this book, is that comics don't necessarily open themselves up to a younger generation. Kids love comics. I have 2 nieces that I love giving comics to. They light up, and it's wonderful to see them sit down in front of a paper book and read. And this is a book I can do that with. I may not be able to do this with Daredevil or Moon Knight. I may not be able to do this with Batman, or definitely not with Savage Dragons. They can never read that. But I can do that with DuckTales. And it's Huey, Dewey, Louie. It's Scrooge. It's Donald. It's the triplets. It's so fun. It's such a wonderful book. And even myself as a grown man, I love this book from month to month. And it's coming out next week. And so I'm really excited about that.
Another book that I meant to mention that came out this week. It was originally what I was going to talk about until Craig said that I had to talk about Dr. Star. But it's definitely one that I would absolutely, if they're into fantasy or not, and I've mentioned its praises several times. Skeletons.
You've mentioned its praises?
What? How is this supposed to do that?
You've mentioned it and sang its praises.
Yes, that. What he said. Just re-edit it to where it's your voice saying that instead of mine. But yeah, Skulls and Scoundrels, it's good for all ages, and it's been I just finally got caught up in it like last week, and it's been phenomenal.
Right on, man.
Awesome.
Well, there's another book that we're going to talk about next week that it does not come out next week. I'm only going to mention it now because it's something that doing a comic book podcast and having some of the connections that we have occasionally, we have people reach out to us, indie people, and they say, hey, I'm producing a comic book. Would you guys like to mention it on the show? And the answer is always, of course. Now, that's not a guarantee that we're going to sing this comic book's praises. It's also not saying that we absolutely won't. But we were contacted by the creative team for a comic called Alien Toilet Monsters. They sent us a PDF for it. We've got it. We're going to read it. We're going to review it. We're going to talk about it. I have not read it yet, so I don't know what I think about this book yet, but we are 100% going to give it a read, and we're going to talk about it next week. So please come back next week. Let us know what you think about talking about it, and get ready to read this book if you're into what we talk about. It was named the top indie comic of 2017 by Bleeding Cool, for what Bleeding Cool's opinion is worth. Warren Ellis spoke about it in his newsletter. That means a lot for me. Warren Ellis is probably in my top 3 of all comic writers. They recommend reading the Chunky Reader app when you get it digitally. So yeah, that's something that we're going to talk about next week. And that may not be an all ages comic. I was horrified to open an email. I was horrified to open an email called Alien Toilet Monster. So
I have actually. I think I'm the only one that has sat down and read it.
I couldn't download it on my phone, so I got to bring it up on the computer and read it.
Got it scheduled.
I did read it. I'm gonna give it another read for a fresh review because I did read it almost immediately. But you'll have to tune in to hear my thoughts.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna read it about 7:30 in the morning when I wake up. So that's when I've got it scheduled. So. Other than that, guys, that's some good books coming out next week. That's some stuff that we're really excited about talking about. Do we got anything else we need to just do? We got any more rat killing? Any more bitness about the show?
I'd like to just reiterate, Facebook is probably the easiest way to contact us because one, if not 2 or 3 of us are on there constantly.
Yeah, for sure.
We love to hear feedback. We've gotten a few so far. We'd love to hear more show ideas, topic ideas, just anything writing, because we are comic book heavy, but we are about geekery.
For sure.
And if there's an aspect that we're not maybe even 100% on, we can learn. If you want to hear about something, let us know on any of our social medias, especially Facebook, but tweeting, Instagramming.
Did you just say tweeting?
Tweeting.
Twitter.
Twittering.
Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at both of those places at SFG Podcast. Ignore my dog making strange noises. Sorry, she's dreaming. It's really cute. If you're on Facebook, and you know you are, don't fucking lie to me. Look up Southern Fried Geekery Podcast. We have our Facebook page. Just from me personally, kudos to both of you. Sean and Jerry have really stepped up to do things with this Facebook page. I'm all about creating a community. I personally think that there needs to be a better geek community here in Central Arkansas, and they've done a good job about helping us do that. But we want to expand abroad. We've got people listening to this show from all over. We've got listeners in California and Seattle, and because Seattle's a state, California and Washington. We've got people listening to the top of the East Coast. We've got folks in Florida listening. We've got folks in Arizona listening. We've got apparently a listener in England listening, and we have a listener in Japan, but I'm fairly sure you know him, so that doesn't count.
Trying to clarify, we're still not certain. He doesn't remember downloading while he was there.
No, he doesn't remember. Sake and tentacles.
He's a busy man.
He's a real busy man.
So right now, I'm hoping to believe we have a new listener.
You're gonna really make me compile a list of favorite tentacle hentai porn, aren't you?
You should. We can talk about it. We can have a triple A.
We will totally talk about that.
We can have a triple
talk
episode.
About some bondage fairies and a blue girl.
And if you are our Japanese listener who's not Brian Ingram, please contact us and let us know, because we would just love to confirm that.
Hey, fucking man. Let us know.
Yes, I want to talk tokusatsu.
Yes.
Because we're also all over Instagram, too, and I just want to throw that out there, because that's really fun for me. I post pictures of what I'm reading. I post panels that I find interesting. I post things that I'm doing. And you can also find our personal links to our personal pages on each of these shows. If you happen to like Sean more than Jerry, or if you happen to like Jerry more than me, or if you happen to like Craig more than everyone you've ever met, because he absolutely is that person.
That is about the hierarchy.
Yeah, you can
It really
you
is.
can find all of us. You can find our own pages. Come back and come there and see us. Reach out to us, man. Interact with us. We're nerds. We're lonely.
Reach out and touch faith.
They'd be completely off. Anyway, guys, come back next week. We're going to have a great episode ready for you. Other than that, go forth and love and read some comics.
Yay!